We bring the show to its start with that 10 count because we are mourning the loss of two fighters from the same card in Japan while we were away. Episode 629, Boxing Nuthouse coming your way, 8 o'clock UK, 12 o'clock Pacific time every Sunday. It's crazy when these things happen. Like a fighter death, I mean, it's basically yearly, you know. It's an awful thing, but it's just happens. I mean, head trauma. Two in the same night. That's crazy. And so to Hiromasa Urakawa and Shigetoshi Kotari, to your families, to your friends, I mean, we wish you the best during this time, and rest in peace to these two incredible warriors. I'm going to read an article from Boxing Scene here, kind of summing up everything going on. Plus, because I think, even though these might not be names familiar to American or British fans, I think that the impact of these events are going to linger throughout boxing and have an effect on it moving forward. I have a feeling. The Japan Boxing Commission has moved to allay safety fears about boxing in their country. It has acted after two fighters died from injuries sustained on the same tragic August 2nd event in Karakoan Hall in Tokyo. On Friday, August 8th, Shigetoshi Kotari died. On Saturday, August 9th, Hiromasa Urakawa passed away. Urakawa had a craniotomy for an acute subdermal hematoma, having lost via 8th round stoppage against Yoji Saito. Kotari boxed to a draw for the Oriental Pacific Junior Lightweight title, and he too had undergone an emergency craniotomy following a bout with Yamato Hata. Already there are reports about the fateful August 2nd event being boxing's darkest day. Hagawari Minoru, chairman of the Japan Boxing Commission, and General Secretary Yasukawa Tsuyoshi hosted a press conference in Tokyo earlier today. We will begin work on anything we can immediately, including investigating and clarifying the cause and taking measures going forward, said Hagawara Minoru. We would like to move forward as quickly as possible. Yasukawa spoke about how grave the issue was and added, "We are once again reminded of the grief of the families and those involved and the seriousness of this matter. How can we eliminate the risks inherent in sport? What happened this time is serious. We have received requests not only from our colleagues, but from both inside and outside the country, saying that if there is anything we can do, we will do it. We would like to work together with everyone to prevent a recurrence." It had already been determined that OPBF title fights would be altered from 12 to 10 rounds after Kotari's death, and that is also the same now for championship matches in Japan held for the WBO Asia Pacific titles. But that will not fix everything, of course. Urakawa's fight was scheduled for 8 rounds. There are now many fighters with the skills to engage in heated exchanges from the first round, Yasukawa explained. We see a lot of matchups where attacks are made at a fast tempo. In Kotari's case, he fought well until the 12th round, but I think that 12 rounds is an extremely dangerous time. As much success as there has been with boxing in Japan in recent years, with Naoya Inoue and Juto Nakatani leading the way as two of the sport's leading stars, there have been some dark times, and this week has been among its most bleak. On an Inoue bill on December 2023, Kazuki Anuguchi had to undergo surgery after losing consciousness following his fight with Saya Tsutsumi and passing away 38 days later, aged just 23. That fight was over 10 rounds. Kenshiro Teraji also remains in a coma following his tragic fight on May 24th when he boxed to a 12-round draw with Pedro Tadoran with the IBF minimum weight title on the line in Osaka. The Japan Boxing Commission and the Professional Boxing Association will have an emergency meeting on Tuesday to discuss possible changes and improvements. The JBC is also setting up a committee to investigate August 2nd, and a medical seminar is scheduled for September. Yasukochi also spoke about weight loss and weight control at today's press conference and believes they need to look into new methods of controlling how fighters can make weight safely and enforcing new rules to make a safer environment for fighters. Weight loss, which was likely a major factor in pre-match conditioning, are only being looked at from an administrative perspective, he said. I would like to hear the opinions of those involved in the association who have been working closely with the athletes for a long time. And that is a Tris Dixon piece on boxing scene. Appreciate him for that. Yeah, a lot going on there. And Justin, our man Nathan had sent me the link for that fight, before we knew all this crazy stuff had even happened, and I just never got around to it, and I'm kind of happy about that because now we know the outcome. And that was the Kotari fight against Hata, but yeah, this is a pretty intense situation over there. I mean, we do see these things just kind of randomly occur, but two in the same night. They're making some changes, but as the article spoke on, Justin, like it's not necessarily a fail-safe for any of this. I just get the feeling that this is going to be a day that changes boxing. I just get a hunch. What do you think?
It's definitely going to change Japanese boxing. I don't know if it's going to change everything worldwide, but we've been saying this for years. Everybody's been saying this for years. Guys are killing themselves to get down to these weights they might not even should be at. People are going through all this cutting stuff, and it's not healthy. It never has been. It never will be. And that's how these guys, I imagine that is a big part of what happened. I mean, it's boxing's dangerous. It always has been. It's always going to be. These guys, I feel sorry for their families. You know the risk when you go in. Every time you walk in, me and you were talking about it earlier that I'm glad I didn't watch. I remember Nathan sent the link too. I got it. I'm glad I didn't watch it either because I think me and you were talking about it earlier. I've only ever watched one fighter die, and I say die because he died like 3 hours later, and that was, I looked it up and I found it. His name was Bathavian Scotland, and I remember this card. It was on the Lou Duva put the card on now. I had been a boxing fan long. So I only been a boxing fan for about 2 years, and then I already saw death, and I'd only been a fan for less than 2 years. But he's another one of these guys, the whole weight thing. And I remember reading this story, talking about it, and then I went back right now and just found the old article on it, and it is sad. This guy's story, he retired from boxing. He was going to quit. But Lou Duva gave him an extra like few grand to be a late replacement.
And just come in and be a stepping stone for somebody.
He had to have the money. He told his family, he's like, I got to have the money. He's like, he offered me double what I usually get. And I remember this fight clearly. I'll never forget it because the guy died. I remember Max Kellerman was pissed, screaming. Like, stop this fight. What are you doing? Like, this should not go on. And I don't know. I didn't get to see these fights. I don't know if these fights were the same way. Maybe the guys took too much punishment. Maybe it should have been stopped. I think the board has to take responsibility. I think the referee has to take responsibility. I think their corners have to take responsibility. This is not just on the fighter for cutting weight or where they said they're going to look into their weight issues. This is more than just. This is boxing as a whole. They should have.
Well, and the things you said there. Let's tie this together with with some action that we saw on oddly enough the same day with the ringside doctor getting a wrong answer from Jojo Diaz how many fingers am I holding up, and letting him go on for 3 or 4 more fucking rounds.
I didn't know if I was the only one that noticed that because I noticed it. I looked. I said, hold on. Did he just put up he said the wrong fingers? I didn't know if I was just didn't see it right, but you saw the same thing I did. Jojo Diaz definitely did not know what the fuck he was saying. He was guessing the guy's hand. He was just guessing.
His eye was 10 shades of fucked up. He didn't have a clue what was going on in his periphery.
So that in itself, that doctor should never be allowed in a boxing or combat sport again, because you're right, Jojo Diaz. And Jojo Diaz, he might not suffer the same fate these guys had, but brain damage wise, oh yeah, because he should have never been allowed to go on. If you cannot answer the questions, I hate saying this word, they're literally there to protect you. And if you don't get them right, how in the hell are you allowed to keep going if you cannot answer the question right? That is the stupidest shit I've ever seen. But like I said, it's not the fighter's fault. It's everybody involved in this. His corners, everybody involved in this, to allow a guy, like I told you, the fight I saw on ESPN. I remember this now. A novice boxing fan, didn't know shit about boxing at the time. Hadn't been a fan long. Just knew the big names. Even I was thinking to myself, whoa, this guy is getting the shit kicked out of him. Why isn't anybody helping? That was 24 years ago, and boxing still has not changed any since then. And he got destroyed, and nobody. And I'm like, so people need to be held accountable. I think the cornermen should be suspended. I think everybody involved should be suspended for more than 1 year. You shouldn't be allowed to train a fighter. If you have a fighter die because of brain injuries, basically because they took too many shots, you should not be allowed to be in the corner of a fight ever, or at least a severe punishment, because the boxer is not going to stop himself. We know this. 90% of the boxers, now you got the few that, we've made fun of that quit, but most boxers are not going to stop themselves. You get paid to stop them. You get paid to watch out for them. You let them down, you're a big part of it. It's all the system. It's the weight cuts. These guys probably should have been 2 weights above where they were fighting this fight. Killing yourself. Sometimes you got to have somebody to help you, and you got to have the commission has to change. But basically what I gathered out of that article was the Japanese were like, we're going to change a few things, but it's really not up to us, so we'll see. They kind of were like, we'll try, but we really can't. Really ain't really up to us. Bullshit. You're the commission. You're in charge. They have to listen to you, or they don't get to fight in your country. Period. You have all the power. Don't sit there and say, we're going to defer to other medical experts. No, bullshit. You're in charge. You're the top dog. If you say, this is how we're going to change it, you got to start doing this. We're going to change this. What is anybody going to do about it? Nothing. So I hate when people try to deflect. That article seemed like they were like, well, we're going to do these little tweaks, but we have to ask other experts. And, it's not really up to us in a way. Bullshit.
Yeah. Des, and it's funny, like neither of Justin or I have watched these fights with these two guys. So, I mean, we're just really speaking broadly about what happened here. It's just tragic for a loss like this to occur. 2 losses on the same night. Insane. One thing, they mentioned the weight cut. And I know everyone wants a silver bullet, but there's not a silver bullet. You don't know when somebody's brain has just been rattled wrong a few too many times necessarily. It's not you catch it on first sight. But if I would say I can nip a good amount of this in the bud with one thing, Des, I'm going to say you can do it with same-day weigh-ins.
Explain what you mean, Matty. What you mean? If we had same day weigh-ins, it would stop this type of weight. The weight draining.
Yeah, because if you look at the way that some of these fighters come in to the weigh-ins, what are now more or less ceremonial now too, and that's another ridiculous aspect of the whole thing. But if you look at the ones who miss weight by a bit, the fight still goes forward. The ones who really fight, you can see how bad the cut was on it and things like that. And the fact that they oftentimes have almost like 36 hours to recover in order to get into the ring, they're willing to roll those dice a lot of the times. But if they only had 12 hours to recover, I don't know that they roll the dice on that. And guys are going to be coming into the ring much closer to the weight that they walk around at, which is going to stop some of this weight bullying stuff that occurs, and also it will improve punch resistance. You know, the drain, the losing of the fluids of the body is one of the reasons why fighters have trouble absorbing shots a lot of times. So yeah, like I said, it's not a silver bullet, but I think it would make a real material difference in the outcome of some of these fights. Less injuries, less death.
Right, so if I could just put a pin in that for a minute, because I want to come back to that.
Sure.
I think the way you introduced this subject and the way you've started today's show says an awful lot about you, Matty. There ain't many pods talking about the death of 2 Japanese fighters, and the asylum is doing that, and that's down to you, Matty. It was a great tribute, and it was heartfelt. Well done, mate. Well done. It's a sad day, not just for Japanese boxing, but it's a sad day for boxing as a sport and for boxing fans. It's a sad time. Now, I'm a little bit older than most of you guys, and I can go back, and I'm going to come to your point. I can remember as a child, as a young man in my teenage years, as a boxer, I can remember when Spencer Oliver got hurt and we all held our breath and said, oh no, not another one. I can remember when Michael Watson got hurt and the whole country held their breath. I can remember when Bradley Stone died and it ripped East London apart, because it's a small world, and we all knew Bradley or Bradley's family, and we knew what he'd done to the sport. I remember Gerald McClellan being carried out of the London Arena, which is now plush apartments and office blocks. But when it was an arena that held boxing, it's where Gerald McClellan nearly lost his life in one of the most frantic, ferocious fights I've ever seen live, where blood was being sprayed over ringside observers, and the ringside observers loved it. Sometimes think that as boxing fans and people that love this sport, sometimes we ask so much of the fighters. Sometimes we ask so much of the sport. How many times have we heard Daniel Dubois get called a quitter in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and before that, the 2 or 3 years? How many times we heard Billy Joe Saunders being called a quitter? How many times do we throw insults? Not us. I'm just generalizing. How many times do people throw insults at fighters that, for whatever reason, they have to take a knee and they can't get up? But then when we have instances like this, we do a complete 180. Boxing is a sport that saves so many lives, but it can also take lives. You can't play with boxing. You just can't. Anyone that can be bothered to listen to us, anyone that gets involved in our chats and our conversations, I don't blame trainers for pulling fighters out because they see something that we don't see. I don't blame a referee for looking in a fighter's eye after you've taken a heavy knockdown and saying that's your lot. Especially when a fighter's in with a big puncher, and that big puncher can really hurt you, because we know what it's taken for a fighter to get to that point in that ring. The cut, the training, the dehydration, the exhaustion, and then to put your body through 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds against a killer. Professional boxers can kill you with their bare hands. We know how dangerous this sport is. It is the most dangerous of all the sports. There's nothing quite like it. I've played most sports. I've felt that nervous tension, that nervous energy, that anxiety. Nothing compares to boxing. Nothing will ever compare to walking through the crowd, going up the steps, climbing between the ropes, and waiting for the first bell. You are literally putting your life in the hands of the universe. And we're seeing it a lot. If you watch the sport over 10 years, you will see tragedy. and you will see heartbreak. And that's what we've got here. You've covered it really well, Matty. To go back to that point you made about same-day weigh-ins, 24-hour weigh-ins and ceremonial weigh-ins, I remember when the rule got changed and why it got changed. It's because guys were killing themselves to make weight at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and getting in the ring at 8:30, 9:30, 10:30 in the evening, and they couldn't rehydrate. And there was people were getting hurt, they were getting injured, people were collapsing. So the board said, let's put back 24 hours, 36 hours. And now deals are done with promoters and managers and trainers and fighters. Look, if we're both finding it hard to make this weight, why don't we do a ceremonial one on the Thursday night, the Friday morning, and then we do we'll do a proper one, then we'll do a ceremonial one for the cameras at 5:30. Boxing is doing its best, but unfortunately, fighters will always look to have an edge. Fighters will always try and come down where they're a little bit bigger for the weight, where they perhaps their power is better suited to a weight below than what they should be. And we're never going to get rid of this. We're never, as long as you've got a sport that involves cutting weight and punching people in the face, you're going to have these terrible tragedies. And I don't quite know how it can be managed. And I want to hear what you've got to say. I want you to come in at me. But to pick up on Justin's point, I agree. We need the very best doctors, the very best trainers, the very best referees. But until we get that, and even with all that, there's still a chance we could see tragedy.
I think about American football, and they'll stop a game, go to a commercial break, get a medical attention if a guy has a suspected concussion on the field. And any given boxing card you watch, somebody's getting concussed, at least one person, and it just continues on. It's part of the action is concussing your opponent. And I don't know. It's when I think about
it, boxing's a 1v1. You can't pull him out for 20 minutes. You can't give him a breather. You can't say, have the day off, the show will go on.
Well, and in American football, as if they suspect somebody to have a concussion, they got to go through this huge protocol, and they're out for a couple of weeks at a minimum.
Rightly so.
These concussions at least in American football, the one thing that you have compared to boxing is you can pinpoint the moment where it happens, where somebody gets concussed, right? Like they catch a ball, they turn around, they make a move to turn around. There's some 300-pound son of a bitch who can run a 40-yard dash in less than 5 seconds, and he just took your head off at full speed. That's how you got a concussion, Which one of the 120 blows that fighter A landed on fighter B throughout the first 5 rounds was the one that did it? We saw him jack his jaw hard a couple dozen times.
So, Matty, can I just come in there, Matty?
Sure.
Can I just come in there?
Sure.
Now let's transfer that over to boxing. You've got Moses Itauma versus Dillian White next week. If Moses got chinned in sparring, they tell everyone to delete their phones. They wipe the CCTV in the gym, and everyone's sworn to secrecy. We can't let this news get out. Why? Because fights would be scrapped. Dates would be scrapped. Fighters wouldn't get out. Boxing is a complete different sport to anything else. It doesn't have the infrastructure, the platform, the foundation that other sports do. It's a 1v1. And until there's a safety net for boxing, until us as fans understand that the sport we're involved in can be pulled. We can call it off. It can be, but then promoters will lose site fees and guarantees, and networks will pull away. The more I think about this, the more I realise it's absolutely impossible to stop or prevent these things happening 100% in boxing, unless All we can do is tighten it. And the way you tighten it, going back to Justin's point, let's have the very best doctors that are very strong in their position. Let's have referees that are strong in their position. And let's have trainers that are not fearful of losing their jobs and are very strong in their position. But you show me a time in the history of boxing where we've had all those things.
All good points.
If a trainer pulls a fighter out because he sees something in his eyes, he'll get the P45 within 7 days.
Well, and
you remember what happened to Wilder's trainer? He tried. You remember what happened to
which one? Breland?
Look what happened to Mark Breland.
He did the right thing. He did exactly what he's supposed to do, and Wilder was trying to kill him. Wilder was out trying to have his boys jump him. And he did exactly. That's the point. I think Des is just saying is, I understand to a point. Now it's not an excuse, but he's right. These cornermen I think a lot of them are scared for their jobs. If they pull a guy out because they know the guy, like this, they're going to probably most of them are going to fire him, or they're going to throw them under the bus. And like I said, Des made a good point. There's no way to 100% change it. You can make it better. You can't stop it. And I just feel bad for the guys that they fought, because I think Ray Mancini's told that story. He still has nightmares about it. Ray Mancini does, because he killed that guy basically.
Well, that happens, right?
Yeah, and
Justin, how many times? Sorry to interrupt you, mate, but just to pick up, you're talking very responsibly, and I like to think that us on the asylum, we are responsible, and you don't ever hear us say someone jacked it, quit it, hooked it. But how many times in the last 2 or 3 weeks have you heard statements and insults thrown at Daniel Dubois because he stayed on one knee against Alexander Usyk?
Des, you're right. I'm never going to say a guy quit because I'm not taking those shots.
We don't talk like that. No, we don't talk like that on this.
No,
pod.
We don't take those shots.
You hear it on other pods, didn't you? You hear other people calling willy-nilly.
Well, to be fair, it's a new turn for us. We used to
I feel bad saying somebody quit because I'm not going there and I'm not having a 6'5" man beat the shit out of me. I don't know what the hell I would do if I was in there and this guy was and I was seeing freaking double vision. But this is not the same thing at all. But my brother, he was talking about hurting people. He was a monster when he played football. He was 6'4", he's 6'4", almost 300 pounds. And he sent 2 guys home in an ambulance playing football. He just destroyed people. And even him these guys end up coming back. Damn, he broke a leg. He did some stuff because he was just big and mean. But he felt bad for what he did. So I can only imagine if you're in a fight with some guy and they die, what the shit you have to go through. But like you said, quitting, I'm never going to say a guy quit. Yes, we might think in the back of our mind, hey, he looked like he could have gone on. He just kind of bailed out. I'm not in there. I'm not in there taking that. And everybody that talks shit about them and calls them quitters, I'll say this. Get your ass up and go in there and fight that guy and take those shots to the face, and then we'll see if somebody calls you a quitter or not. That's why I'm not going to do it.
So look, let's just focus on Daniel Dubois just for a moment because it's the most recent one. He's in there with a generational great. That's a constant. A gum shield, a mouthpiece, is fitted. It's made to measure. It takes a trainer to grasp it with his forefinger and his thumb and clamp it, and even then they struggle to pull it out of your mouth. Sometimes, if you've taken big shots and your teeth are wobbling, sometimes you pull the gum shield out and your teeth are embedded in the gum shield. The gum shield pulls your teeth out with it. Gum shield don't come out of your mouth easy. Alexander Usyk knocked Dubois' gum shield out of his mouth clean. When you get hit on the edge of the chin, your senses go, your leg go from underneath you. But because you're so fit, you recover quickly. And a boxer could be on one knee and he's thinking, his mind is racing. I've got 6 or 7 seconds to bluff this referee. So what I'm doing, I'm going to keep my eyes wide open. I'm going to speak clearly. I'm going to say, I'm fine, no problem. And he's literally trying to get up, but his legs won't get him up. And people call him a quitter. But That's the inexperience. That's the naivety of people not understanding what happens when you get hit on the chin. This is what fighters go through, and we call these guys quitters. So I think as fans, like but look, I can say this because you don't hear us talk about fighters like that. We don't disparage fighters like that. But as boxing fans, and I know there's a lot of new people coming into boxing that are probably not what you call quintessential fans. They just like the event. But if you're going to be a boxing fan, there's a responsibility that comes with that as well. And we've got to hold the game and ourselves to a much higher order. So as fans, what do we expect of fighters, and where's the respect that we have to give fighters as well when they're in that ring? And as a fan and as a sport, what do we expect from our doctors? You mentioned the Jojo Diaz one. That guy. Now I've been on events where they pull any old doctor in. He might, he comes along for a drink and a bite to eat and 50 quid in his pocket. But we need the best in class to be looking after these fighters. It's the same with referees. We need referees that are strong in their position and not scared of the promoter. I might have to stop the promoted fighter tonight. We need to have referees that say, well, that's the job I've got to do. I'm independent here. And we also need trainers that can say, do you know what? It might cost me my job, but I've got to pull this kid. We're asking an awful lot. And not even that will guarantee.
Well,
but it will get us somewhere. But until we get that, we've got a very, very hard job on our hands.
Well, let me say a few things. I think there might be a problem with too many inexperienced trainers. Even more so than people looking to keep their jobs. I think that, and I can't say this about Japan, so let me reserve saying it directly relates to this situation or these situations. In that there is, I was asking somebody about Les. I had an idea about trying to see if get somebody from the British Boxing Board of Control if we could about like how do you become involved with it and become a ref, become a judge, and somebody or maybe even a couple of people piped in and they said they just aren't interested in bringing new people in it. It's just incredibly gate kept, and so when you have that done with officials and you're having these things that are actually happening under their watch. Who are you supposed to replace them with? There's like nothing effective to do on that end, trying to say, oh, well, maybe Jim should be refereeing fights because he's had 4 guys who have ended up in comas in the last, 12 months in fights that he's overseen. So I think those are worth considering. And I think it might be worth universally considering slightly extending the time between rounds. So, and having doctors available in both corners that can take a look at the fighters. But again, like these are all added costs, and boxing is done on a very thin margin. A lot of these events don't make money. They're lost leaders to try to sell the big event, 2 or 3 weeks away or a month away, whatever it might be. So it's very difficult in this case sometimes to bring that all together. And people say, well, how can you say that when so and so's making $10 million plus for a fight? Like that's 5-10 fighters on the planet who are commanding that kind of dollar. It's not everyone. Most of the events in boxing are not seen by eyes on a television or a computer screen. They're small hall events. They're in buttfuck Egypt, Kentucky, and things of that nature. And there's just not the money to have those kind of people on hand. It's really rough. And sometimes I feel like I'm a savage for loving this sport. But yeah, I don't know. And I
said I watched Shannon Briggs fight some dude in a high school gym. I promise you this: there wasn't no doctors involved in that.
The
basketball goal was hanging over the ring.
You bring up Shannon Briggs. You talk about something unnecessary. Those 12 rounds against Vitaly Klitschko didn't need to be more than 8. It's a miracle that we're not talking about Shannon Briggs as a Gerald McClellan type, who has been completely incapacitated and incapable of living life after he was just knocked around unnecessarily. And in some of these fighters, I think it changes them a lot. You talk about Mancini after what happened to Kim. And that was one of those fights that brought around the end of the 15-round era. But Des, I kind of think, I don't think, to be honest with you, other than a few instances where he needed to really pull one out of his back pocket and the adrenaline was going too much, I don't think that Eubank really swung for it the same way ever again after Watson.
Oh no, there's no doubt about that. And look, look, fighters, we all know fighters. We've all been in gyms with fighters. Some people in the chat have been fighters. Fighters are some of the sensitive, most compassionate souls in sport. Nobody wants to see anyone permanently hurt. Barry McGuigan can still be reduced to tears when you think about the tragedy in his career. Eubank Jr., Eubank Senior, we've seen him openly cry, being close to Michael Watson. I've seen Nigel Benn cry when he talks about the look. There's so much to unpack here. Fighters don't ever want this to happen, no matter what they say. Fans don't ever want this to happen, no matter how they behave. And nobody in the sport wants it to happen. Will it always happen? Impact sports, headshots, weight cutting, absolutely. When you've got one guy whose mission it is to punch another guy in the face and stop him from getting up, yeah, there's going to be a tragedy, a fatality. There's going to be a serious injury, absolutely. Do we have to accept it to a degree? Absolutely. But what can we do now? I say, what can we do? Probably not a lot. But we've spoke about it. It's not just us. There's a lot of people that love boxing that have pods and have a platform. We've spoke about this for a long time. How fighters make weight, the type of people involved, the doctors, the referees, trainers. Where are these trainers coming from? How are fighters making weight in camp? Who are we allowing into gyms at the time when they're training? So there's an awful lot of unknown answers to a lot of questions. Are we going to change it sitting on this pod? Of course we're not. But we're allowed to ask a question. We're allowed to be sad. We're allowed to identify that this is a tragedy. And none of us like seeing a tragedy. But when something like this happens, it reverberates around the whole sport. And true boxing fans, look, we're not here in a fancy shirt watching AJ fight at White Hart Lane. We're here across the board every week. We watch boxing all over the world, small hall to the grand arenas. We love this thing. And when something like this happens, it hits us hard. And we've had a few of these. And we're never going to like it. We're always going to look for an opportunity and a way to say, how do we stop it? The answer is we probably can't stop it. But we're allowed to be sad about it. And we're allowed to hope that, do you know what, if we made changes, maybe we could help. Maybe the sport could help itself a little bit. But I go back to that example with the Jojo Diaz situation with the doctor in the corner. That kind of typifies all the things that we moan about, that we don't like in boxing. The trainers that we think, how did you get in that job? How did you pick up that role? The referees that are just desperate to see a kid get knocked out on his face. And what's this kid got to take before you pull him? We talk about this on an annual basis. We talk about this frequently. And you can hear the frustration in all our voices when an event like this happens. So can we wave a magic wand and change it? No. But are we allowed to be upset? Are we allowed to, feel the tragedy? Let it impact us a bit? Absolutely. But people in the chat saying, well, what can we do about it? Probably nothing. But the very least we can do is be upset about it and talk about it and voice it. And that's all we're doing on the asylum tonight.
And I think we need better doctors and shit there, and we need folks paying a little bit more attention to these things. It's crazy because there are quick stoppages in boxing that we complain about, not on the fighter's end, choosing to retire on their stool, but from what we see on the ref's end, and it's it's such a difficult line to walk, and I guess we need a little bit of nuance on all ends when dealing with it, because like they do have lives in their hands and things of that nature, and we do need to separate when things really seem like hometown cooking, and something could have gone either direction. And the problem on times with sport, and to add to the savagery of the whole thing, is I know I place bets on fights. I know tons of people that place bets on combat sports, and when referees call fights early in those opinions and quote unquote blow our bets, it pisses us off. We're weighing 15-20 bucks sometimes against somebody's life, and it's a very, I don't know. I think being a sports fan is its own complexity, because I think it brings out the worst in us in a lot of ways, and our expectations and such. And going to something that was said in they said the Japanese fighters aren't typically slick, and that's part of the problem. Yeah, there you go. So people overlooking the elephant in the room. Japanese boxers aren't slick; they're aggressive and fan friendly. From Boxing Focus there, and yeah, it's there's something there, but I think some of that has more to do with honor, and it's so common in Japanese society. It's one of the most admired traits, and fighters seeing it through, never quitting, as part of that honor, and maybe these things go hand in hand, because there does seem to be a little bit more of it in Japanese boxing than potentially elsewhere, maybe in places what are not as modern, and it might not have as good commissions, might have some comparisons. But Japan being a very advanced first world country, I don't know. It kind of stands out, and you look at Kenshiro Teraji recently losing his belts at just about 10 days ago. It's been a while against Sandoval, in what was a thrilling fight, which could have gone either way, but probably leaning Sandoval. But what a stunning contest that was. But Teraji, I mean, that was just a handful of months removed from his fight against Akui, which was an absolute bloodbath. And here he is against this guy who is just so obviously physically bigger than he is. And he might have been the better puncher overall, but that physicality wore on him. And, he definitely wasn't taking the last few rounds. But, his honor and that drive to impress, I mean, is that part of why Taraji took this fight so quickly? Could it have been different, later on, or is he on the tail end of his career? I mean, he obviously is getting on it with 33 regardless, but that was, I look at the wars that Taraji has been in, and I kind of worry about him potentially being another one of these stories. I don't know. Des, I see you're unmuted. Thoughts on that?
Well, I looked at the screen, and there was a fella in the chat who asked me a question. And I don't know if you could get it back up there, Matty.
Yeah, hold on.
I'm going to try and sort of circumnavigate back to you.
There you go.
Right, so he's gone. The trainers have to sit exams. How hard is it to become a ref and our doctor specialist in boxing and impact sports? Right, so let me do this backwards. Our doctor specialist to boxing and impact sports? Quite often, no. It's a local GP. So maybe the boxing could have a database of doctors that specialise in sport and impact sports.
Yeah, you would probably want like doctors who specialize in TBI and shit like that.
Correct.
To be the ones keeping an eye on these folks.
Because you know yourself, Matty and Justin. Sometimes just looking in a fighter's eyes, you see something glazy, you see something ain't quite right, and you go, no, that's enough. And no one else in the room could spot it. And you say, stand on me. My decision making is correct. But you need to have that specialist, and he or she has to be very, very strong in their position. And you know yourself that in boxing, there's a lot of very big characters. And when you're pulling a fighter out of something that could be potentially life-changing money or lead to life-changing money or involve titles of some description, For a doctor who's an outsider to say this guy can't fight no more, you've got to be very, very strong in your position. And sometimes I'm not quite sure if boxing people want that type of expertise in boxing, because it could undermine, it could go against an awful lot of people at the time want. So, to have specialist doctors, specialist type of people in there that can spot and that can see things before others, that would be a big step in the right direction. But there'd be a lot of pushback on that. How hard is it to become a ref? Well, we've seen I've seen some diabolical performances from referees. We all have. We talk about it on a monthly basis. Why did the ref stop that one, and why did the ref didn't stop that one? I always have to question referees and how do they find themselves to be referees? We've got enough ex-boxers that haven't got work. We've got enough ex-boxers that would like a role in boxing.
Great point.
I've often said, why don't we get ex-boxers licensed up to become referees? I've always said that, but for some reason it just don't happen, and I wonder why that is. If for a referee, they get picked up, they get taken around, they get watered, they get fed, they get put in a hotel, and they get a few bob in their pocket. I know a lot of ex-boxers that would love the opportunity to do that. Why can't we fast track ex-boxers to become referees? Because I'd have a lot more faith in a boxer that's passed the relevant tests and exams and got themselves there on merit with the background they've got as well. I'd have a lot of faith in that referee. And do trainers have to sit exams? I've always had this thing about trainers. I don't know where a lot of them come from. I don't know what qualifiers. And boxing's always been that sport where anyone can walk in. It's an open door policy, and I promise you, I've seen it with my own eyes. Someone comes along to the gym and he's hanging around and he can't do enough for you, and he picks up things and he puts things away and he's standing there all humble, and then one day the electricity goes down. And his uncle's got a generator, and he'll run and get the generator, and he'll bring it in, he'll plug it in. Now you've got energy. And all of a sudden, that fella's now on the ring apron, and he's now talking to the trainer. Before you know it, the fighter's car's battery's flat, and he's running him home. Then he's coming back with him in the morning. All of a sudden, he's telling the trainer what the fighter's feeling. And now you've got the trainer going, well, what's your role? Well, I'm sort of his other trainer. And before you know it, you've got a foot in the door. I've seen this type of thing happen. And now you've got people that have got no experience in boxing, no idea about boxing other than I've been around it a bit. Now, that's an extreme example, but I've actually seen it. And I've always said that if we're going to be sensible with this boxing thing, why don't we create a national database? And bear with me here for a minute, Matty and Justin. Why don't we create a national database where we say, if you want to be a professional boxing trainer, you have to have done 250 hours in an amateur gym. And every time you go down the amateur gym, firstly, the amateur gym's got to have you on their cards as a trainer. And then every hour you do gets signed off and it gets put on the database. And you can only do maximum 2 hours a week signed off. So you've got to be in there at least 2 years. And in that time, you've got to work with novice fighters, intermediate fighters, and open class fighters. You've got to perform every role from holding the bucket to handing up to being in the chief corner. In that time, after that, you can then apply for a pro license. But in your first year in a pro license, all you can ever do is hold a bucket. You can't get in the ring. We don't want to see you in the ring. We don't want to see you at the weighing stage. That's not your job yet. You've got a year. We want to see something like 150 rounds boxed before you can graduate for your level 2. And when you do your level 2, you can graduate to, say, getting in the ring. You can graduate to talking in between rounds. And if you do another 150 rounds, and maybe 25 of them rounds or 30 of them rounds have got to be for a version in a title fight, then you can graduate to a level 3 trainer. And a level 3 trainer is where you can take fighters up. And then after you've done 3 or 4 years in pro boxing, you've done 300 rounds, you can actually be a level 4 boxing trainer. But at least we've got you for 5 years. Go on, mate.
I hate to interrupt you, but I think what you're talking about here, you have an interesting way to get people engaged in their community and also to work on building up the amateur program in that way. In the same way we try to build fighters through the amateur program, why don't we use public service and bringing people up as trainers through the amateur program?
And what you would do, Matty, you'd find out who really wants to do this. Because I'm saying to someone, actually, you're going to spend 2.5, 3 years in an amateur gym, and you can only record 2 hours a week. So that's going to take time. And then after that, you've got to do another 2 years in the pros if we pass you. And then you're going to be holding buckets and standing on the outside. There's going to be no walking around with tracksuits on and standing on next to the scales and doing interviews. It's going to take you probably 4.5 to 6 years before you can get a level 3, level 4 boxing trainer's license. So we'll find out a little bit about you. And if you stick with it, at least we know by the time you get there, you've done 200 rounds in the amateurs, you've done 200 rounds in the pros, you've worked with area title fighters, you've worked with domestic title fighters, and we've looked at you, we've monitored you, we've recorded everything you've done from start to now. So at least we've got you. So now you're a level 3, level 4 licensed pro boxing trainer. We know who you are, where you've been, and what you've done. Now, that's got to be a better alternative than what we've got now, where you can literally walk into the sport and the fighter can say, this is my guy. Well, that's not really enough, is it?
Well, Des, in North Carolina, I've looked into it a few times. You talk about how easy it is. There is a 2-day course. You pay $150. It's 8 hours a day, so 16 hours. You watch a bunch of videos. They bring in some referees. You can be a licensed referee in this state, a licensed judge, and a licensed cornerman in 16 hours, and then you are ready to roll. There ain't no way. I'm going to take it, but there's no way in hell I would be ready or anybody would be ready with 16 hours of training to go out here and do a professional fight. But that's what it takes in this state, which is absolutely nothing.
Wow.
2-day course. It's over a weekend. Now that means you're a licensed ref. So you could do amateur up to pro. It takes 2 days.
And you just wait here if you take that class here in a couple of years, we're going to be watching a bare knuckle fight from North Carolina, and we're going to see the lights bouncing off your head.
Well,
a wonderful day for the Nutters.
Yeah, it's every 2 years you could take it. I signed up like 2 years ago, but I had to do an event. I couldn't make it. But I'm going to do it. I'm always just curious. I think Jay Nady is the one that runs it.
No shit.
Yeah, North Carolina brings him in every 2 years. Jay Nady did it one time. Steve Smoger did it one time when I looked into it.
Fuck.
So it's legit. Oh, yeah, you don't want him training you, but it's legit people. The point is, it only takes 2 days. That's the point. So Steve Smoger, could imagine what kind of training he would have given you as a ref. But that's what, like to Dez's point, you don't have to earn it. And I don't think now I might be wrong. I would say maybe like the state of California might make you, like bigger states in the United States might make you go through more. You might have to work the amateur circuit for a few years before you could do pro fights. But like rural states like this, that boxing's not a big deal, you pretty much just almost walk in the door.
It's an open door policy. It's an open door policy.
Let me make a couple of points on what you were saying there, Des, so just to go back. And I think a couple of things that you could do too is if like kind of, how you get like credits for school based on apprenticeships and stuff like that. So if you have already competed, an X number of bouts as an amateur, Y number of bouts as a professional, then those levels you talk about, you can get jumped a couple, right? Because you already have what you would call a basis of experience, even though if it wasn't on the teaching end, because you've been on the learning end and taken in a few of those building blocks, which I think would be a legitimate way to give a hand to people there. And I think, we've worked this through when we've helped give fighters an opportunity post a fighting career. We've offered ways that we could build up amateur programs and create competent trainers. I think something like you look at like the hours you're talking about there, and Justin going into that, like something to think about. And this has always pissed me off in this country. Like, I think a lot of things with licensing are stupid. It's just like a lot of regulatory gatekeeping to keep people out and keep prices up in certain industries and professions and shit like that. But there's certain things that that matter, that you should get a lot of training. But in this country, there's states where you have to have more hours of training to become a hairstylist or a beautician than to become a police officer, like, and that's fucked up. And so then we're thinking about this, like your life is somebody's life is in your hands. We should be asking a fair bit, and we should be asking for continuing education and things of that nature. But as mentioned in the chat, boxing is the Wild West, and it's always been the Wild West, though. You can't point to an era where boxing was super squeaky clean by any stretch of the imagination. There were always monsters for promoters. There were mobsters rigging things behind the scenes. There are people on steroids. There's fucking cokeheads. There's trainers putting cocaine in people's water bottles and taking padding out of guys' gloves and it's a fucking madhouse, like whether you believe he's guilty or not, cheering on a former fucking rapist as he re-enters the ring. It's such a fucked up sport. And it's like, you just got to shrug at it at some point in time. And there's obviously something wrong with everybody in all aspects of this, especially us, the viewer. God love us. I don't fucking have any other hobbies. I'm not gonna be quitting anytime soon, but fuck me if there's not something totally wrong with us.
And Matty, look, I'm just a tick London Irish paddy. I'm just sitting here chewing the fat. If you've got clever people to sit down and massage this idea and tweak it and refine it and trim it, this could work. We could have the best in class, the best doctors. We could have the best referees, and we could have the best program to filter through the best trainers, or trainers that are the best, most qualified by the time they get there. It could be done, but it does take an awful lot of work, and it's a lot of logistical planning, and it's a lot of administration and organizing, and people have to be very proactive. And I can't, and it's great listening to Justin's feedback there. That was just what I wanted to hear, that in North Carolina, it's a 2-day bloody course. And you came back with that. It's actually harder, same scenario, different stage. It's harder and more strenuous to become a nail technician or a hairstylist than what it is to become a law enforcement officer. So I get it. But boxing's got to open the doors to these ideas, and boxing's got to say, we welcome new change here for the benefit and the betterment of the fighters. And
lucky us, Des. We were able to make it happen here. We can get a professional's opinion on this. I'm happy to have heavyweight Tony Yoka here with the Boxing Asylum. Tony, it's great to have you here, and kind of what we're kicking off our discussion with here before we get into the meat and potatoes with you and what's going on with your career. We're talking about these two Japanese fighters who lost their lives recently in boxing on the same card, and just some of the dangers that are presented in the sport, and how there aren't a lot of protections for fighters based on what the commissions are doing. Do you have any thoughts on that? Where you should have great concern. Your life is on the line stepping into the ring every single time. It takes one punch. I'm not getting you on. I don't know if you're muted on your computer. Might want to check that out real quick. Couldn't hear you. Oh, we lost him. We'll see if Tony's back. I don't know what happened there. Hopefully we get him there. We'll get to this just a second here, and hopefully we get Tony back on that. I was looking forward to that one, but yeah, such a crazy time in. Oh, there we go. I still can't hear you there, Tony. Let's see here. Do you have your mic on? Let's see. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you. We got you. Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Right
Sorry.
on. So I was asking so again, like, I mean, your life is online. Do you ever have concerns about the quality of the people who are in charge of your safety at times?
I mean, it's something that we have to live with, you know. It's the sports that we choose, and of course, when we see stuff like the two Japanese that died, like recently, it reminds us that, of course, it's a sport, but it's really dangerous and really violent, you know.
Going back, it's I'm glad to see you continuing on. I hear you're working with Don Charles, who who us at the asylum hold in high regard. And tell me about, because we look back and some of your fights, and as you're struggling a bit there, and it seemed just at times like your confidence kind of left you. Talk to me about what you've been doing to just get comfortable and to get back in there and try
You
to
know,
start really believing again.
boxing is like life, you know. Sometimes you fall and you have to raise up, you know. I had really like 2 bad years in my life, and I think I felt it again in the ring because like I had like a divorced, I changed country, I wasn't seeing my kid, I was injured, so I lost my fight, and then you know you lost your confidence, and then everything's just you think like everything is just bad news, you know. But then I met Don Charles, and I felt like I knew him for a while. I felt like he treated me like his son, so it gave me back my confidence. And then now I feel just like I'm a phoenix, you know. I rise again.
So I want to get back to Don in a second, but let me ask you this. This is something I've never had a chance to ask a fighter. So when you're going through all those different struggles in your life that have really nothing to do with what's going on in the ring, but it still affects you because it's
Yeah.
your life, are you there in the ring sometimes or in the corner getting instructions, and while you're trying to focus on that, instead you're thinking about these things that are happening in your life outside of the ring?
It's not really like you thinking about these things. It's just you're not focused. You know, you just like you lost. You know, you can see it in your eyes. When I was looking again, like the fights, when I was rewatching them, I was just like, I'm not there. You know.
And what about working with Don has made you feel like you are there again? Is it just something where the relationship clicked and you started
Yeah,
to see
like
it happen in
you
the
know,
ring from
I
there?
was I was supposed to meet 2 or 3 coach, and Don was the first one. I went to the gym. We talked for like an hour, and then by this time I said, "Okay, it's you. It's nobody else."
It,
You know, the relationship that we had, the confidence that he gave me, he trusted me, he believes in me like straight away, and he said, "Let's we're gonna work together, and you will see."
well, and something about Don as a trainer, and something that I think a lot of fans saw that you might have needed more in your fights, is he is very offensive oriented.
Yeah,
He wants you to protect yourself and find your moments, but he wants you to be pushing your opponent backwards.
he wants you to be aggressive, and this is what he told me. You know, he really showed me the fact that he showed me the difference between boxing and heavyweights. I think it's 2 different sports. Like in the other categories, in other weight class, you still can manage, you know, you good technician, blah blah blah. But in heavyweights, it's different. Even if you don't have even if a boxer doesn't have like a good technique, if he's really aggressive, really strong physically, he can like give you like nightmares, you know.
Like a guy like a Martin Bacoli, who's just
Yeah.
big, tough,
Yeah.
comes in swinging.
Yeah, you know, when I fought him, I was like really light, skinny. I was good at technique, but It wasn't technical. He wasn't like a big, a good fighter, but he just bullied me the whole fight because he was just really strong physically.
Yeah, and do you think is that not that might not necessarily be one you want to get back because it has to make sense for a fight to happen.
Yeah.
But looking back, do you think that despite the loss, that fight you learned a whole lot about yourself as a fighter and what adjustments you needed to make if you wanted to continue on and be successful?
Oh yeah, definitely. This fight gives me the right answers. I saw that I was too light. I saw that I didn't put enough physical strength in my training because I always been good technically, you know. But to be good in the heavyweight and professional, you have to be focused on the fact that you need to knock this person out.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who have done very well in the amateurs, Olympic medalists and things like that, who did it all based off of more of a jab and right hand, a very very Cuban-y kind of thing. But ultimately, when you get to professional boxing, 10 3-minute rounds, 12 3-minute rounds, that jab and right hand isn't always the trick, is it?
Yeah, it's not always a trick, and then you find out that after the 5, 6 round is a is a new story.
And let me throw this over to Des. I'm sure he would like to ask some questions. He has a deeper background in boxing than I do, and I'm sure he is just frothing at the mouth with some good questions here. Des, go ahead.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you, Tony. So you're based over in London now, and you're training with Don full time.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, do you have a date, Tony? And are you looking at anyone in specific?
I don't have any dates. I had a contract with a French promoter and a French TV for a while. I did my last fight in May,
Mm,
and this is why we signed the deal with Queensbury. We
mm,
signed the deal with Queensbury, and I wanted to be in the mix. I wanted to be in with a promoter that can gives me big fights, can put me in the ring with other big names, because I
mm.
really want to test myself, and I want to show the world that I didn't get my gold medal for nothing.
Okay, so I mean, Frank Warren is pretty much one of the dominant promoters, particularly in the heavyweight scene on the world stage. Um, you've got guys like David Adelaide, Fabio Wardley. They're under Frank's banner. Would one of them
Yeah,
sort of guys interest you without putting you on the spot, Tony?
yeah. I mean, I'm not difficult. I'm not someone difficult. I
Yeah,
always said yes for any fighters. When I fought Martin Bakoli, nobody wanted to fight him.
yeah,
They
correct.
propose me Martin, I say yes. I'm a fighter.
Mm,
I'm not a talker. I'm not someone that I don't. It's not like I don't like. It's just I don't know how to do like the talk and shit and none of this. I'm
mm,
not this.
mm.
I'm a fighter. You give me a fight, I fight.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Martin Bakali was the most avoided man in heavyweight boxing.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Um, well, look, it's great. It's great to have you on the pod, and it's interesting that you're based in London, and we're all very keen to see how you get on. We're all very we like Don, and we think he could be a really good influence on you. And Don's had
Oh yeah.
some really good success recently with Daniel Dubois, and before that, he was had success with Derek Chisora. So look,
Yeah.
we'll all be looking out for you, Tony, and very good luck for the future, man. I hope you settle well in London, and I hope you and Don's relationship really
I
flourishes.
mean, I don't understand why I didn't came before, especially in
Mm,
London. I was in USA, but UK is where you find the most heavyweights in the world. So even for sparring is so good. I
mm,
have been sparring with Daniel Dubois for his last 3 fights, and
yeah.
this gives you like a lot of experience. You don't, of course, you get experience in the fights, but I have to work on sparring first.
Yeah, I totally agree. And having to be part of a gym where Daniel's fighting guys like Alexander Usyk, and before that he was training for the Joe Parker fight, and before that the AJ fight. To be part of that gym, to jump on that camp, and to experience all the sparring partners that come and go, that can only be beneficial to you, Tony.
Yeah, for a while he didn't want us to fight to spar. and I was
Yeah.
really mad at Dan because it was feeding Daniel some guys that I know they didn't have my level,
Mm.
and one day I just came out and I said, look, you're gonna put me in the ring with him, I'm just gonna leave because there ain't no way
Mm.
I'm just looking those guys getting the work and not me. So we shared the first sparring session, and like all the gym was like shut down. Nobody was
Yeah.
talking after the sparring. Everybody was shocked. And then after the sparring, Daniel went to Don and his father, and he said, "Why you didn't bring this guy before?" You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
since that day, we've been sparring and sparring together, and we're really pushing each other. And when you see that I'm working with him for his AJ's fight, I see the way me and him been battling in the ring. And when I see the fight, I was like, no, my level is up.
Well, it's good talking to you, Tony. And when you do get a date and you get out on a Queensbury show, we'll maybe have you back on, and we're all
Yeah.
supporting you, Tony. So the very best of luck, mate. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your interest.
All right,
All
and
right.
I
Good
got
luck.
Justin here, and he wants to ask you a couple. And I know it's late for you, and we don't want to hold you too long. But
It's
Justin,
okay.
go ahead and get Tony some questions there. I know you got a couple good ones.
It's just one quick question. I remember watching you in the Olympics, super talented guy.
Yeah.
But after those two losses, this is a question I always wonder: was there ever a time that you thought it just boxing? Maybe I didn't want to. Did your goals ever change, or did you just second guess yourself, or was it just you just needed to regroup and like maybe finding Don Charles? Is that giving you the extra like a
I
boost
think
to be better, or you just ever
I
thought
think
maybe?
my life hasn't been like this, never, and I had the chance, or maybe I had the talent enough. I was talented enough to be Olympic champion really soon. I was just 23, 24 years old, so I had to work. I did my first 5 years as a pro in the USA, etc. I had my losses, but I think now I'm enough mature. I am 33 years old now, which is not hold for a heavyweight, and I really feel like now is my time. It's my time. I know all of those guys, and I have beat a lot of those guys in the amateurs. So me and them know each other for a while. So I really feel like I I deserve to be in the mix. I deserve to be there, and all I ask is a chance to be in the ring with those guys, and then I know at the first minute of the first round, everybody will be like, "Oh, okay."
That's a damn good attitude to have. Hey, I appreciate you answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
So I had forgotten that you were working with Virgil Hunter for a few fights,
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah,
Yeah, and he seems like he's a very good trainer, but again, like we're talking about the aggressiveness that's needed
yeah,
in the heavyweight division.
yeah.
He's a very soft spoken and mellow guy. Is it almost like his energy isn't right for heavyweight boxing in a sense?
I mean, he's one of the greatest coach ever in
Oh,
boxing for me.
he he
Like,
he he molded Andre Ward, who is
like
who picked.
technically,
Yeah,
when you just look at Angel Ward, wow, the work he's doing now with Suleiman Sissoko, the work he did with Boissy is really great.
he created
But
a guy who dominated a
yeah,
very
dominant
talent-rich
Olympics,
division
pro,
with
and
one
everything.
hand.
Yeah,
With one
yeah,
hand.
yeah. So, but the fact is, I don't think it fits really well with heavyweights because it's too aggressive. It's too um physically strong. The way that Andrew Ward was blocking like this. You can't do this in heavyweight. I was trying to do this with Bakoli. I was blocking like this and going to the ropes like boom. You
It's
just can't.
300 pounds coming up
Yeah,
against your
like
head.
this.
Glove or not, you're getting
You
knocked
can't.
over.
Instead
Yeah.
of instead of Don Charles knows it. So when I was blocking like this, it was like, no, you can't do that. He's gonna hit you. So you have to go aggressively against him.
Yeah, and here is not the $1 million question, but really the multi-million-dollar question. Alexander Usyk, he's running out of scalps at this point in time. and you just know that Don wants to get one on him. He wants it badly. And so is that something that that is always on your mind, that he's going to need opponents, and that you've got a guy who has been dissecting him and trying to find ways to beat him for a few years now?
You know, we have to put respect on Alexander Usyk. When everybody heard that he will be a heavyweight, I was skeptic, okay, but he beat everybody, and he beat them twice. It's not even like it was close. It wasn't even close. So we had this thing with, okay, maybe Daniel deserved the win when he punched him, blah blah blah. But look at the second fight. So I think Usyk is just, when he will retire, we will realize that he's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, like for sure. But if they ask me to come and fight, of course I will go, and I will do my best, try my best to give him like big problems.
All right, and this is my last question for you. It's only slightly boxing related, but as someone with a great Olympic pedigree, what did it mean for you to have the Olympics come to Paris and be able to experience that as a former champion?
That was great. Olympic Games is something special, and it's not like professional. A lot of guys can become world champion because you might have your chance. You might have it again in a year, 2 year, etc. But Olympics, you might get just one chance to go. You need to qualify, and then there is just a few people that had the chance to be Olympic gold medalists. I'm the only one for my country. So to have this at my home, to see how people was greeting me was really nice.
That's awesome, and I'll tell you what, that Gojira performance at the kickoff ceremony, what an awesome performance that was too. What a killer!
Yeah, that was
So,
great.
but hey, Tony, I really appreciate your time. We're looking forward to seeing what your next steps are. You have any final words for the fans out there before we let you go?
Just follow me, just follow me now. I think I'm in the right place with the right coach, with the right team, a right manager. I signed with the right promoter. So there is a lot of talks now in the table. They're talking about like a fight with AJ. I think that would make sense. So just stay tuned.
Hey, fantastic! And I think if you get through AJ, I think that Usyk is the door that is open wide up for you, and you'll be the guy
I
who
know.
has the chance. And we'll see. Everybody wants a chance. Nobody has shown that they have
Yeah,
it. But
it's personal.
pulling for you and Team Charles. Don is our boy. I've talked to him over a dozen years ago now. The first time I talked to him was when Derek fought Malik Scott around that time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're pulling for you. Glad you're in the camp, Tony, and thank you
Thank you
so
very
much for
much.
your time. You
Yeah.
you take care of
Thank you.
yourself. All right.
Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
You're on mute, Matty.
Oh, right. I said right on. We haven't done an interview for quite some time there. That was
I honestly thought when you said Tony Yoka was coming on in the WhatsApp group, I was like, what are you talking about? Is he messing around? I didn't take it serious.
no.
I thought Rob was going to come on and do his Tony Yoka voice. You said Tony Yoka was going to come on. I was like, I don't think that. Is he really? Was he trying to get Tony Yoka? I don't think that's real.
Oh no.
Like,
Yeah. Rob missed his chance. This is what you get for being tardy, Mr. Kelly. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
But you could see, Matty, you can see why this kid sells, can't you? If you give that kid an Olympic gold in Paris, he's a French kid. You could see why there was so much noise made about him. If he could just get it right on the night under the lights, and he's had that transitional period now from being an elite amateur into the pros. He spoke about the style's got to change. He can't keep catching and throwing. He
He
can't
said
get
the
by.
right things, and I hope people were
Yeah,
listening when they
yeah,
consider what
yeah.
heavyweight boxing is.
well, Don Charles is the guy you would go to, I would think, as far I mean, if he can't get the best out of you, it's going to be hard to get anybody else to get the best out of you.
And Justin, don't underestimate the work done. The work Don did with Derek Chisora, cutting his teeth in the pros, coming through at domestic level, area belts, British, Commonwealth, European titles, going around Europe, winning some, losing some, boxing on bigger shows, fighting the Vitaly Klitschko's. That's an awful lot of knowledge Don's collated. And now he's transferred it into Daniel Dubois, and they've had their own journey. So maybe Tony Yoka's getting Don Charles at the right time. You know, this could be a real good time for Tony.
But I like what he said, and that's something I think we discussed, kind of going what we've been discussing is these guys have real lives. They're not just dudes that we watch on TV. You know, he said he went through a divorce. He couldn't see his kid.
Makes us feel like assholes for this.
Yeah, that's like real life stuff. Like, we don't know, because look at us. Look at the crazy shit, especially in my life. My God, the crazy shit that happens in my life on a daily basis. I can only imagine if I had to go train and then fight somebody on Saturday with the crap that stuff I just had to deal with this morning. I could only imagine that kind of stuff coming up. It's like I imagine it's got to be hard at any level, but especially boxing, when you have so much going on in your life, and then you've got to go out here and do this and do that. It can't be easy.
And to come onto the asylum and just field questions, he was articulate, he was bright, he was very clear. English isn't his first language. No, he was a credit to himself, that interview.
Yeah, no, and it was, again, he said the things we want to hear. Like, everybody says, we're just trying to get reinvigorated, blah, 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 blah. No, he had specific things that he talked about that he knew and he understood. And it was, we touched on the Bacoli fight a couple of times. And when I knew that he just didn't have the confidence at that time to make it as a boxer, if you remember in that fight, he had opportunities because he was working towards the corner, then turning, and Bacoli was hitting air at times. And he had a chance to step in with some hard shots with his opponent off balance, out of position, and he just chose to stay in the retreat.
We live in a world where people aren't honest. I like the fact that he was honest. I wasn't big enough. I couldn't do anything with him. I like that. I like this. Just tell the truth. Don't, a lot of people will come out and say, well, I didn't get my jab off and he hit me with, there was no excuses. We live in an excuse world. Every day somebody has an excuse for something they do. He didn't make a lot of excuses. He didn't get, like you just said, Maddie, he didn't get it right. He didn't get, he didn't get it right. He lost. That's what I like. I respect. Just say, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I lost. Instead of trying to come up with every excuse in the book, just say the truth. He was bigger. I didn't have this plan. I didn't do it. He got me. I like that. I like when you just say, this is what happened. I'm not trying to because everybody makes excuses. I like when somebody just says that, hey, this is what happened.
Yeah. It's funny enough. I was watching an episode of House last night. I don't know if any of you guys watch House, and Chase decided he wanted to go work in the NICU unit, which is dealing with infants, and it's because he got tired of all the adult patients lying to him. He didn't want to deal with liars anymore. It's I get it, and it's and I don't necessarily know that boxers are sometimes are purposefully lying, but I think they're oftentimes lying to themselves. And you have to have that spark, you have to have that fire, really, and it has to truly be there, or you're just kidding yourself. And it sounds like Tony just might have gotten it back. And I think that Charles Gym is a good place, and I hope Don isn't worried too much about those losses to Usyk. I mean, Usyk's a fucking animal. He's a once in a generation fighter, and you sometimes just watch, saying son of a bitch, and things go how they go, and everybody's on the losing end. But let's see here. But yeah, so so Justin, we were before that we were talking, getting into the Kenshiro Teraji talk. What are your thoughts on that fight against Sandoval? I thought one of the scorecards was just absolutely out of fucking whack. I thought Sandoval was a deserving winner, and if Teraji won, it was going to be by a point based on that knockdown. But another good war in a string of them, really, for Teraji, with only a few that weren't. And I just can't help but think too quick of a turnaround, if not just too many miles on the odometer, period.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You talked about that. It's like you don't see fighters taking hard fights that back to back to back anymore. So that I think that it couldn't have helped him to go into another war like 2.5 months after he just got out of another war and then a war before that. So he basically 3 wars in a year, almost, like hard fights, not like easy, hard fights. But no, I'm not saying I didn't score it really close. I didn't sit there and write it down and score, but I thought Teraji edged it by like a point. But I think I had Teraji edging it. Sandoval, I wouldn't say I didn't give him a lot of respect. I just didn't think Sandoval would win. I think the size did have something a little bit to do with it. Sandoval was bigger. So Teraji was having a harder time really shaking him with the shots. When he did knock him down, that was just a clean punch.
What a great 1-2, man. I mean, down the pipe.
Pretty shot. That was just right on it. And then and Sandoval wasn't hurt. He was stunned. He wasn't hurt. And that's the problem is Teraji usually when he lands that, he hurts you. And he didn't really hurt Sandoval. And I think that was kind of the turning point of the fight.
Sandoval was physically huge compared to him.
Sandoval got up.
Stood up.
And I think Sandoval realized I can take these shots now. I took his best shot. And I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. That made a lot of difference in the fight too. But I still had Teraji just really close. I'm not going to complain. I think the 117, 110 was stupid. I don't see how you, even with a knockdown, he still won that.
That's 2 rounds. That's 2 rounds to Teraji. I'm like,
there's no way Teraji.
He won the 5 and 6 at the very least, and then
there's no way Teraji only won 2 rounds. That guy gave him 2 rounds. That I don't understand. He was the aggressor. He did a lot of things that you usually get scored for. So I don't know where that guy thought he only won 2 rounds, but hey.
Yeah, let me see who that judge was. He deserves.
You know what?
He deserves to be ridiculed.
Knowing Teraji, he'll probably run it back tomorrow if they wanted to.
I wouldn't doubt that. He's supposed to be on that Japan Riyadh card, and I wouldn't doubt
Teraji that. Wouldn't care. He would fight him again next week.
So the judge who had it that way was Joseph Gwilt. Gwilt. It's just almost like quilt. Let's see here.
Gwilt needs to quit.
Yeah, I was utterly unimpressed with that scorecard. Usually you can search referees on that one, but yeah, you can. Oh, look at that. You can, but they don't look like they're hyperlinked. Let's look at this guy. Let's see here. He's from the United Kingdom originally, Mr. Joseph Gwilt, but now he resides in Thailand. And he seems to do a fair number of these fights in Japan, honestly, looking at this, and obviously some in Thailand. Some of these names are popping out at me. So, yeah, interesting. Well, hopefully we don't see him in judging a world title fight anytime in the near future, because that was sad. And I love Teraji. Anyone who's listened to this podcast knows he's one of my favorite fighters. And he, with that unification at 112, sneaking into the pound for pound list, was not out of the the realm of possibility, and I thought it was very reasonable for those that did. I think the ring included, but I think that fight was might have been the end for him. It took a lot out of him because Sandoval's a good fighter, and I think ultimately the size might have told. But we've seen him struggle with Jimenez, who is a decent fighter, but I thought we might have had his level tagged down already. So it was a bit of a shock on that one, but I hate to think that it's the end for Teraji, but the guy's just been in some wars and he eats shots. So I don't know. We'll see what's next. Probably the rematch, and if he pulls out the W in that one, I'm almost just hoping Kenshiro pulls the plug on what has been a Hall of Fame career, in my opinion. Rob, did you catch Kenshiro Teraji, or are you coming in dry, as per your time in prison?
Oh, fuck. No, I'm definitely not coming in dry because I've spent the whole week at the Flag Killing the Heron in Wexford, which is the Irish music festival where thousands of people descend on Wexford and all kinds of shit happens. Ed Sheeran was in town blocking off the streets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
on.
so it was good. So I was out on the piss every single night. I said I was only going to go like once, and I ended up going out every night. So tonight I left it for the finale. So I suffered a TKO loss last night to Stella Artois. Got me over 9, you know, that way. So yeah, I haven't seen much fight action, but I've been having a great time.
That's good. I'm glad you've been having yourself a good time. It's Yeah, you gotta enjoy it while you can. God knows how long it'll last. I keep thinking the aliens are gonna come take control, but that's another conversation for another day. But
Oh, the
anyhow,
Wi-Fi's got it.
anyhow, I'm trying to. Justin, was there anything else you saw on that card? I'm trying to think. It was very very early in the morning for me, and it was over a week ago. So I'm having a hard time here. I'm gonna have to go
I don't.
back.
If you,
I
I have
watched it,
no
but I don't
chance
remember.
then.
Let's
I don't
see.
remember.
Let's see here.
I watched it, but I don't remember that far back now.
Oh,
That was
there was the draw between Antonio Vargas and Daigo Higa, in a fight that it looked like I think it looked like Vargas had won on that one, maybe.
Oh
Uh,
yes, I don't. That's 10 days ago. There's a lot of shit happened in 10 days. I don't
yeah,
remember. I
Eric
don't remember all
Eric
I see
Rosa lost to Kayasuki Takami.
Tony Yoka was ducking me there, wasn't he?
Yeah, that kind of came in at the last second there. That
Yeah.
was we had a good
Stuck in
time
that
there.
smoke. When's he going to come on and answer some real questions?
I thought we had some good ones for him, but yeah, that was a good time. It's been a long time since we've done those interviews. I like talking to him, and want to thank Obi with Don Charles's crew for setting that one up. He's a good cat. Enjoy chatting to him. Really appreciate that happening there. And just general fighters and people who might be promoting small hall shows. We might have our little niche, but you never know what our niche can help you promote what you're doing next. It's a tough time for guys who aren't involved with Turkey too, trying to do these small events and stuff like that. So hit us up if you want to come on and talk about something you got going on the next week. Be glad to give you 15 minutes. But anyhow, we saw a good fight last week between Kenneth Sims and Oscar Duarte. Oscar Duarte getting a majority decision in that one. Just had the heavier artillery, although there were some really good exchanges and moments where Sims showed his talent and skill in the ring. He is a very capable fighter. I got to rate this win by Duarte. But all in all, I thought even though this might have not been fun as the fight that preceded it, which we'll get into, Justin, I thought this was a damn good main event, kind of a decent little card that came out of nowhere, honestly.
Sims can take a shot.
Yeah.
That's the thing I remember. That's the most thing I take out of that fight is that Duarte landed his best shots all fight long, and he really couldn't hurt Sims. So that I don't know if that shows the level at 140 of Duarte's power, but yes, it was a good fight. Like I said, definitely the fight before was better, but I kind of thought Duarte might get to Sims, but Sims held up. I mean, damn, he took some hellacious shots.
Yeah. It was a good fight between guys who with differing styles, and although Sims is a cute fighter, he tries to stay in the pocket, and I think you need legs to really to beat a guy like Duarte or to be able to outgun him in an exchange. And there's not a whole lot of guys who can do that. Des, did you catch this fight?
No, mate, I'm no good to you on this card, mate. I never see any of it. I've been travelling around tonight, so
You're fine.
I can't help you, mate. I'm sorry.
No worries.
And nobody gives a fuck about these fights anyway, Maddie. Come on.
Oh, you missed a good one. Oh, this is a good fight. This is a good fight, and I'll tell you, the one you missed that was shockingly entertaining was the fight between Regis Prograis and Jojo Diaz, where Jojo Diaz buzzed Prograis multiple times during the fight. Great exchanges. Prograis won the fight, and I thought he probably deserved it. I think at 98-92 was too wide. Speaking of wide cards,
He was retired. Why did I think he was retired, Prograis?
Because he probably should have retired after getting dropped by Catterall.
Didn't he say? Maybe he said he was going to have one more fight. I
thought he might have been thinking about going into MMA or something like that, but he might have sucked at that more at this stage in his career. I don't know.
You know it goes, Rob. The guys like Prograis always they're swimming in a dangerous pond because they're done. They're cooks. No disrespect, but they're a great name. They're yes, the name adds on some up and comers resume, and they'll always be pulled back in.
The gatekeeping.
Yeah.
I think he needs the few quid Prograis as well, doesn't he? History of making bad investments is documented on this pod. Didn't he get caught in some kind of property Ponzi scheme or something in the fucking Bahamas or something?
Yeah, and the problem
He
with
did.
Prograis was inactivity, and that's because he never wanted to go under a promotional umbrella, and he kept trying to do the free agent thing. And the thing is, if you're Regis Prograis and you're a free agent, why is somebody who has a real talent put him in with a high risk guy such as a Regis Prograis? Like there's no
Mm.
fucking upside on him for it. Like yeah, there's
Yeah,
problems
some
having
guys need the
promoters,
machine.
but
Like, yeah. Some guys need the machine. He was one of them. Like,
yeah,
He
you
should
like
he should have
unless
known
you're
that.
the go ahead.
I'm sorry. He should have known that nobody gave a shit about his career when he had like 300 people show up for his hometown fight, and he was undefeated. That kind of sums up Prograis. I think it was like 400 people showed up for his New Orleans home when his first. He was undefeated, and he only had like 400 people show up. That kind of sums up his career overall.
yeah, but he won anyway.
I think the only thing interesting about that fight was when, like me and Maddie talked about it, when Jojo Diaz got the questions wrong about the concussion test, and they still let him fight. That was
Oh,
the
it's
fun.
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, he's like, "Is that a 2?" He said 1, 3. He didn't know what the fuck was going on. They still let him pass. It's craziest shit I've ever seen.
Still got it.
Yeah, he looked at the guy, then the referee, even the referee looked at the doctor. Like the referee saw that he fucking got the number wrong.
It
And
was
he
so
looked at the
fucking
doctor, and
stupid.
they said, "Oh fuck it, go, just go, fuck it, go. You don't have to get it right anymore, I guess." They all looked at each other and said, "Go on, whatever."
And the cut was on the lid, accidental headbutt, like it could have been stopped. It was fucking gushing. Absolutely gushing. And the fact that Prograis is fighting so jab heavy and it was in Diaz's left eye, he just kept eating him up. Right fucking jab, right jab, right jab. And then but he threw so many jabs, Diaz eventually is like, okay, ow, hit me, time you right over the fucking top. And Prograis loses his legs. I don't think he lost him as much as the DAZN Crow like to have said that he lost him. I thought they might have gotten a little bit jumpy on saying he lost his legs that many times. But it was a good fight. Like honestly, Rob, top 5-10 fights of the year I've seen at this point.
All right, okay. I'm still not going to watch it back, but you did a great description of it, so at least I have that to hold on to. Do you know what I mean?
You do. You got
Just
that
watch,
going for you.
just watch the concussion test. The only fucking thing that mattered.
But yeah, that was
I did see that clip. I did see that bit.
That was fucking what a stupid fucking sport. Anyhow, yeah, we've already been discussing that one. But yeah, as far as New Orleans goes, I'm trying to think. Nolans is appropriately said. I think that the last fighter I think who made like any real noise out of there was probably Clifford Etienne, who I fought Tyson, and then I think he ended up going to prison for murder.
You mean the Black Rhino, Clifford Etienne?
Yeah.
Still, the funniest card ever was when ESPN did the White Buffalo versus the Black Rhino, and it was called Call of the Wild, and they had they had a jungle theme, like surrounding the ring. They're going to fight in the jungle, and it was in downtown Kansas City. It was like 105 degrees outside, and fucking Francois Botha almost passed out walking to the ring. He was sweating so much. That was still the stupidest shit I've ever seen. They had it was the boxing. I guess it's fucking boxing, but
Incredibly fun fight to watch back. Tyson Botha.
yeah.
Fucking incredible to watch back. Like, so much fucking fun in it. Like, when you think about the way the sport is now, Tyson's in there trying to break his arm and everything, going for the bite again, fucking, and just starches him. Like, that was a
Dude, and
cracker.
as fucked up as boxing is, sometimes I think like of the grand justice that exists within boxing. Like, how many times did we get to see a black guy knock out a white South African? There's some justice in that, isn't there?
Well, you know,
Lennox
Mike
Lewis
was,
fucking right hand over the
yeah,
top.
on fight night, he had some, he had some bad intentions, Mike, that night. Like, but I think that was the last remnant of what he used to be with that right hand. Like, that was the last, I think, display. The last time we saw it really work. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Who cares? Anyway.
Yeah,
I
who knows?
still remember being at the Docklands Arena when Lennox Lewis fought Franz Botha. And when Franz Botha came into the ring, he had that buffalo outfit on, and he looked absolutely intimidating and menacing. And I remember Lennox Lewis and the reggae music come out, and Lennox sort of hovered to the ring with this complete air of certainty and assurity. And I knew I was watching greatness because he absolutely walked through Franz Botha.
He
I'll
killed him,
never
didn't
forget. So yeah, it was just two or three levels above Franz. But I remember when Franz was bouncing around in a ring, almost like that scene from Raging Bull when Jake LaMotta's bouncing around to the Scorsese music. Both of them were doing the same, very similar. And I thought, wow, this guy has come to win. And Lennox just glided in and just stood him on his head and got rid of him. I've always had that thought of Franz Bofa ever since seeing him at the Docklands Arena.
Well,
Yeah, he
I'll
was a
tell you,
big bastard, wasn't
there's something that Lennox Lewis can say that Bernard Hopkins can't. He never lost to a white boy.
he?
Anyhow, that's a fucking throwback moment.
Lost
God,
it. Lost a
almost
close
20
1-1 and then got ejected out of the ring. Fucking in the last one with Joe Smith. Fucking hell.
Well, and don't forget the absolute whipping that Kovalev gave him that should have been probably stopped.
Oh shit, yeah. How could I
along
forget
the way.
that? PTSD from watching that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Actually, it kind of seems like white guys were his foil.
That was a shelling. That was a shelling. That was prime Kovalev. Like,
Yeah,
what
that
was
was before the
he
drink
thinking?
got him.
What was he thinking? They should have fucking put him on the drink beforehand. What was he thinking? Hopkins taking that fight. Fucking hell.
Dude,
Anyway,
Bernard Hopkins, honestly, has some of the biggest balls of anyone who has ever stepped into a boxing ring ever. And just like the fact, like he'd take any challenge. Like you think about it, and like there was, I don't think Kelly Pavlik was at the top of his game. I do believe that he was definitely fighting something that night, but I don't know that he would have beat Bernard Hopkins. Like Pavlik was a fucking killer at that point in time. Like those wins over Taylor were no joke. Taylor was a great fighter. Win over Bernard Hopkins, obviously, and Hopkins just came in there and absolutely took Kelly Pavlik to school. And like you got to remember, like those wins over Jermaine Taylor don't get enough credit. Like, even though it was over Sam Solomon who got injured and shit, I mean, he still had to pick up his wins to get a
he had to
title
get off
after
the
he
deck
came
as well.
back.
Like,
But you look at Jermaine Taylor when he came back and won that title. You want to talk about fighters and the look in their eyes in between rounds? That was Jermaine Taylor always, man. Like when he came back, like there was fucking nothing there. It was like Quint describing a shark's eyes and jaws, and he had all sorts of fucked up things after that. Still good enough to compete right up near the highest level at that point in time. And a prime Kelly Pavlik, speaking of guys destroyed by the liquor, fucking I mean, he had those 2 wins over him. And in that first fight, man, that stoppage over Taylor, what a great moment that was for him. I mean, I remember watching him and he got him in that corner and he hit him so hard in the chest that you actually saw Taylor's his chest like ripple. It like a big spurt of blood or some shit. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, like it definitely a wasted talent as far as it goes.
favorite part of that was after that when Hopkins went up to him and said, "Learn to fight like a slick black fighter, and you'll be okay."
True
Kelly
enough.
Pavlik. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
God, he went and proved it. Yeah, that was. Yeah, Hopkins had a hell of a career, but it's that is that Calzaghe fight really that disputed at the end of the day? Like I don't know how many people really think.
Well,
Bernard
for
won
me,
that
just for
fight.
me, like, just for me, I thought it was a fucking. Didn't think it was. I didn't see with the knockdown. I thought it was a draw, maybe. But anyway,
God, that would have been tough to make it a draw with the knockdown. Someone would have had to win unless you had scored an even round in there.
I'm saying so. Yeah. So anyway, it wasn't that contentious, but I like Joe Calzaghe these days. I used to not like him, but I do like him these days. Look back on him, a lot of respect for him.
No, he's fantastic fighter. But let's see. I'm trying to think if there is anything else.
If I could just touch on Bernard Hopkins as well, Matty.
Of course.
You have to really respect the mindset and the school he come from. That he come out of the early 80s to the mid 80s, turned pro in the late 80s, and he was part of that fantastic era that we don't talk about enough in boxing. Roy Jones, Michael Nunn, James Toney, Mike McCullum, Julian Jackson, Gerald McClellan, like they'd all come through that system together. And he come from that Philadelphia boxing school. And I think when you're in that elite bubble of excellence, I think it's very easy to think, do you know what? Europeans and Canadians, and in fact, some people from certain parts of this country just can't live with me. I'm too good for them. And he was one of the top guys in a very, very elite group. So I can see why he probably thought, I'll just, I'll do, I'll stand Kovalev on his head. He can only hurt me if he hits me. And he just probably just got that one wrong. But he got so many right, didn't he, Bernard Hopkins?
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable career.
Unbelievable
Personality
career.
as well. Yeah.
And Rob,
Even the
I,
middleweight run,
I,
that doesn't get talked about because he got
it
more
don't get
exposure
talked
on this
about
side of the
enough. That's
pond
right,
with
because
Box
we
Nation
didn't
and
see
all
it.
that.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
the middleweight
Absolutely.
run was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And you know when he had Joe Calzaghe in Las Vegas for before the Hatton and Mayweather fight, and everyone's talking Calzaghe up, and Calzaghe had already stood Lacey on his head. You know, Bernard Hopkins, who's this art of war type guy, he knew what to say just to back foot Joe. The one thing Joe could never say to him, he thought, I'm going to throw this back at you. How'd you handle this? And he just said, I'll never lose to a white boy. And it's just anything he can to just undermine Joe Calzaghe. It really is the art of war, and it's what Bernard Hopkins was all about.
He did it to Trinidad too, didn't he, with the flag and that, like
Yeah,
threw the
he done.
Puerto Rico
Yeah,
flag on the
it's a
floor and
great
stuff.
point. It's a great point. Yeah, and he undermined Pascal at that Max Kellerman around the table.
Killed him,
He's
didn't he?
just so
Killed him.
good at
Dude,
Killed him.
doing
yeah,
fucking push-ups against Pascal in between
yeah,
rounds. Like that was one of the most fucking gangster moments ever in a goddamn
yeah.
fight I've seen.
He knew how to undermine you as a man. He knew how to make you doubt yourself. He knew how to just put you on the back foot. He understood the art of war. He was so much more than just a boxer, like Rob said.
Oh, and we were forgetting about what else might have happened this week. How dare I forget the card that happened in Benghazi, Libya on Friday afternoon, Friday night for you guys. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk
Hillary
about
Clinton was doing the ring walks over there.
Yeah, the problem is everything started too late because everybody didn't get nobody got a warning until like 10 minutes after it happened. Anyhow, let's see here. Let's see here. Is that going to be the right guy? I don't know. Yes, fantastic. We had this god of all the fucking guys over there, and this guy. I'll tell you what. I'm trying to. Justin, did you see this card?
What, the Libya shit?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh well, I'm on my own
that?
on this one.
I know. I'm sorry. I watched the Cuello fight because that was short, but
Quick.
I didn't give a shit about the rest. I didn't give a shit about the rest of
No,
it.
I'll tell you, you missed out on Ramirez. I mean, Jerome Pampalone, not the best fucking opponent that anyone has ever seen, but goddamn, anybody who hasn't seen the knockdowns before the stoppage, he knocked him down hard in the 6th. Fight was stopped in the 7th. And Ramirez does some nice switch hitting. He hurt him right towards the end of the round in the 6th. And he stepped in, swung his right foot out, and he just uncorked straight as a die fucking right hand. Nasty shot. And then in the next round, he was able to get the stoppage out of the southpaw stance, coming with a right hook. A lot of power in that hand from both stances. Very athletic guy. I'm not saying he beats the top of the top, but I do think that Ramirez is one of those dark horse guys in the light heavyweight division, especially, Bivol recovering from back surgery. How many more does he have in him? He could be Ramirez could be a guy who competes after that era. I'm not going to say he beats Bivol or Beterbiev at this point in time. Obviously, I'd be, whacked out of my gourd, but keep your eye on Ramirez. Mirko Cuello getting a good stoppage over Sergio Rios Jimenez. Both of those guys undefeated. And Cuello just dominated him. He's an interesting guy. What I like about him is he gets off the line in order to throw his shots, and he really knows how to set them up, find angles, something to be looking at there. Francisco Fonseca coming in and defeating the 6-0 Soufiane Oumia. I'm probably saying that wrong. There's a knockdown in the third. Fonseca just continued to do his work, won by only a round on a couple of cards, I think, but well deserved there. Putting a 6-0 guy in against a Fonseca, bad move on that one. And there was a Mike Perez fight that ended early due to a head clash. But yeah, Justin, you only caught the Cuello one, but I would recommend seeing Ramirez too. What'd you think of Cuello?
I like Cuello, but isn't he like in the? Is Nick Ball his champion? Like he's the interim now. Didn't he win some kind? That was for the interim.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Ramirez is an interim too. Yeah,
Well, I think Cuello's. I think he's under Nick Ball's. I don't know. When I saw it was in Libya, there's other shit I'd rather have done than watch Pampion and Ramirez, and I don't know who else was fighting. And Mike Perez. My God, Mike Perez is never going to stop. And so I really didn't have that much interest in any of it. But I might go back and watch the highlights of Ramirez.
Yeah, I would, if I was you, just go back and watch rounds 6 and 7. You know, I think you'll kind of see what he's capable of. A really strong offensive fighter. The fact that there was a fight in Benghazi, Libya, though, I had a hard time getting over that. I'll tell you what was funniest about this one, Rob. If you want a reason why go back, you're someone who appreciates just the absurd stupidity of the world that we live in. And on this DAZN card, there was no announce crew whatsoever, which was pleasant, actually. I kind of enjoyed it. But, other than the ring announcer, there was just nothing going on. But their guest of honor was Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson's just fucking chilling there in Libya watching some fucking fights. It's an interesting time.
That's what we needed, more Mike Tyson, like. You know what I mean? Fuck's sake. Fucking Mike Tyson everywhere, man. I love Mike Tyson growing up. He was one of my biggest idols. Like, I am so sick to death of Mike Tyson. I swear to God, man. Jake Paul, Netflix, fucking podcast, stage show, Broadway show, book, one-man show, fucking comedy movie appearances. Fucking hell, man. Give me a break with Mike Tyson, will you?
He was great in The Hangover, though.
I wonder what he wouldn't show up to, though. I mean, fuck, he's. I've always think like what he wouldn't show up.
Man.
Mike's all about making money now, man. Like,
wasn't this the Say No to Drugs card?
Possibly.
I think it was billed as the Say No to Drugs, and they special guest Mike Tyson.
That's such a terrible fucking. That's fucking one of the great.
Yeah, it was like I remember.
Steve needs to have that in the next value of the week for sure. Mike Tyson. I didn't even think about.
Jesus, it was like the WBA Say No to Drugs card.
Knockout drugs or something.
Mike Tyson as a special guest in Libya.
Yes. Yeah.
After having a fucking DMT toad or two on the way, like. Oh wait.
It's easy to say no to drugs if Mike Tyson's in the room. You turn around and you're like, "Hey, where are my drugs?"
That was a wild guy, but we get it now. Like, you know what I mean? Fucking hell. But anyway, fair play to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, so that was the card in Libya that happened on Friday. That's how dire the boxing is at this moment in time. We're having to watch fights from fucking Libya in order to have any entertainment whatsoever. So, but I wish us all the best as far as that goes. It's been a rough go. We do have some fights to keep an eye on here, though. Interesting enough, somebody mentioned they thought that Otar Aronosian, who I was high on, was serving a shadow ban of 2 year, a 2 year shadow ban, and he had disappeared. His last fight was against Roger Gutierrez on the 9th of August in 2023. And although the result is not posted on BoxRec, on the 9th of August of this year, he fought Danis Aguero Arias, obviously leaning into the idea that, yes, he was serving a 2-year ban. So I don't know. That's ridiculous. But hopefully Otar gets back at it. Funny enough, my God, how ridiculous that was, though. What a fucking world we're living in here. But anyhow, we got a few cards coming up this week. We're going to have a Pro Box card that I believe is on Friday. It's going to have Mohamed Kuja Yakubov against William Foster III. That fight is better on paper than it is in English, believe you me. Starling Castillo and Shenard Bunch. That's not a bad fight whatsoever. You got both of the Vigues on there, Marquez and Dominic. Gary Antonio Russell, is on the Pro Box circuit now, going in against Dervin Rodriguez. No, not Delvin Rodriguez, Dervin Rodriguez. So he's got that going for him. Let's see what else is happening here. We're gonna have a card, your monthly card you get with UFC Fight Pass, best $6 a month I've ever spent. Actually, it was only about $5, whatever. Omar Trinidad is taking on Lorenzo Parra. Not a bad fight at all. I think the RJ Cortez Andrew Maloney fight that was supposed to be in Mexico has been pushed back. So that leaves us with the DAZN card coming from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they still want money for this one or not. Maybe they got the fucking point and took it off pay-per-view. We'll see. But it's going to feature Moses Itauma against Dillian White, Nick Ball and Sam Goodman, Raymond Ford and Abraham Nova coming in on short notice there, and Filip Hrgović against David Adelaide. Not a bad card all in all for a Saturday evening, as long as it's not pay-per-view. We will see. What are you thinking about this one? There's a couple of competitive fights on there, Des.
Yes, mate. I suppose we should start at Hrgović and Adelaide. That's quite an interesting one. And we're not quite sure what Hrgović has got left. And we're seeing a little bit of a rise from David Adelaide. We can forgive David Adelaide for getting stopped by Fabio Wardley, because Fabio Wardley is going on doing really good things. I think that's a really interesting one. It all depends on who gets their foot on the ladder first. I think Hrgović will probably be reluctant to start fast because Adelaide is young and he's fresh and he likes to fight in close. I think Adam Booth will have slowed David Adelaide down a little bit and be working a lot more on the economy of punches. So Adelaide will be looking at quality, not so much quantity. And I think that could suit Adelaide in this fight, because I think Hrgović could be someone that could get a bit lazy and his technique can come apart a little bit. And if David Adelaide works on economy and if he keeps it tight and keeps a steady rhythm going into the 4th or 5th round, I think David Adelaide could win this one. I think Hrgović is probably going in favourite because of what he's done and where he's been. But I just think this version of David Adelaide against this version of Filip Hrgović, they could have timed it just right. And that's what this fight's about, I think, is timing. Can we get a shop-worn Hrgović who's a little bit entitled, a little bit lackluster, and if he doesn't get rid of you in 3 or 6 rounds, sometimes he gets a bit sloppy and scrappy. Sometimes his chin comes up and he doesn't throw his shots correctly. If we can get that version of Hrgović and a good version of David Adelaide, I think we might see a David Adelaide win. But it's a close one, and you'd expect Hrgović to be the favourite. But this one's all about timing. And I think Adam Booth will have worked really extensively on David Adelaide, on his economy, on his output, keeping it tight and seeing this fight into the second half. I think if he can do all those things, Adelaide could win it.
Yeah, it's not a bad heavyweight fight. It's at the end of the day, you're just trying to basically figure out levels with these guys. I mean, everybody's just trying to get into the Usyk sweepstakes, be one of the final opponents of his illustrious career, get that payday. I would lean towards Hrgović, just a hunch. I think on levels. I haven't seen odds yet. I'm gonna look at him. What are you feeling?
Hrgović. I wasn't impressed at all with Adelaide when he fought that TKV, whatever the hell his name is. I wasn't impressed at all. I've never been impressed. I agree with some of Dez is saying, but I've just never been impressed with Adelaide. I think Hrgović showed that he had a better motor than we thought versus Joyce. He was throwing some really good shots late. I think he just does everything better than Adelaide does. But like Dez said, if Hrgović shows up like we saw versus – who did Hrgović lose versus when we watched that fight? Was it Dubois?
Dubois, where he landed like 50 fucking right hands in the first 3 rounds.
That's the thing. I don't think Adelaide could take those shots, though. I don't think Adelaide could take that many right hands as Dubois did. I lean Hrgović.
They do have odds on this one. Adelaide's paying 4-1 as the underdog in this one.
I think I wouldn't be surprised either way. I just think Hrgović is going to win.
I'll tell you what. Maybe that's the better way to look at this and how we might see it going as far as the broader card goes. So The odds, the underdogs in these respective fights and what they're paying is Adelaide's the underdog to Hrgovic, paying 4-1. Nova's paying a little bit more than that. It'd be 17-4. Goodman is paying 7-2. White paying 6-1. Rob, I give you a $5 to put on any of those guys as the underdog to pull out the victory. Who are you putting your $5 on?
Who are they again?
Jesus Christ. Fucking ADD is rampant all across the world, not just the United States, so it can't just be sugar.
I got distracted.
Adelaide's playing is paying 4-1 against Hrgovic. Nova 17-4 against Ford. Goodman 7-2 against Ball. White 6-1 against Itauma.
I'm not saying anything about Nick Ball. Fucking hell. Late, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I hate Hrgovic's style. He's just a big ox, isn't he? Like, limited guy, tough opponent, hard style to overcome, but technically and everything, like, he's just a watch. It's just fucking tough to watch every time. It's just a slog, like his fighting style. So maybe he has the edge, but he might be drilling shots with Booth as well, like trying to catch him over the sides. I think he's vulnerable, like with his head up, like he can be hit. Depends if Adelaide can take his moment if he gets it. I think other than that, you're looking at Hrgovic points win, but 4-1 on a stoppage is not bad. Like.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Des, what about you? Who would you put your $5 on?
Well, again, I go back to it. I think at 4-1, I think Adelaide's great value. When you consider Adelaide's made changes, he's on the come up. Solid Dakers was a fight that was live. TKV was a fight that was live. Now, when you compare that, now I'm not saying that those guys are of a higher level than Hrgovic. I'm not saying that at all. But I like the climb. And if you compare that to Hrgovic's last 3 wins, no disrespect, I'm not here to disrespect fighters, but I thought Hrgovic v Joe Joyce was like a donkey derby. I thought they was both awful that night. Before that it was Mark Demori, and before that it was Dempsey and McKean. That's going back to 2023. That's the last 2 years. Now, I know he come out fast against Dubois, but he ended up getting stopped. That leaves a mark on a fighter. He'll always have that. He'll always put the handbrake on now, because when he tried to start fast, it cost him. So you're talking about a precious, entitled Eastern European superstar from the amateurs that's probably not had it his own way and probably a little bit disgruntled with how his pro career's gone up to now. I think the Adelaide fight is a real hard one for him, because I think David had been live, and I think he'll be well coached. And I think that's all wrong for Hrgovic at this stage in Hrgovic's career. So I think my $5 goes on that, and I think I'm going to put a $5 on it, actually. David Adelaide at 4-1 to beat Filip Hrgovic.
All right, Justin. So even though you said you haven't been that impressed with Adelaide, still out of those options, is that where your $5 would go?
No, I put on Goodman.
Goodman, I'll tell you, Goodman, the reason I wouldn't think he would is because he's not much of a puncher, and he's not so much like a crafty movie guy who might trouble Ball, but he likes kind of to trade with you a little bit on the inside. And I just think that's Ball's game, and he's going to get caught. My opinion.
Probably, but I'm saying with those odds, if I had to put 5, I'd just sling it on that, because I think Nick Ball's the guy who's going to come. I don't know if Goodman's the guy to make him come unstuck, but Nick Ball is coming. That he's just going to come unstuck versus somebody soon. And I mean, might as well if I'm going to put 5 on it.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Even I would imagine it would be heavily controversial, kind of like when Kansei Sao beat Oshaki Foster. But I'll tell you what, Des. No, Raymond Ford is a hell of a fighter, but Nova is one of those guys who finds a way to make basically every fight fucking close. And he has lost every single one of those fights that has been very close. And it's just one of those guys where it might not even be his night. We might say that he lost, but he's one of those dudes, much like Kansei Sao did against Oshaki Foster the first time around, where he could easily just swing it over that one time, because they are always in close fights.
And he can crack a bit as well. He's a box of tricks. He's a hard night's work. He's one of them world class gatekeepers. I totally agree. I think if we see a very proactive, a very switched on Raymond Ford, Ford wins. Ford outclasses him, but Ford needs to be switched on. He needs to get that snap behind his punch. He needs to be fast handed, and he needs to get his respect very early. And once Raymond gets his foot in front, I think it'll stay there. But he can't switch off. You're absolutely right what you're saying. This fella's a world class gatekeeper. It reminds me in a different type of way, but in a similar type of vein. Who was the kid that always done the drunken master bit that fought Floyd and Roger said was his hardest opponent? Do you remember the kid's name?
Augustus.
He reminds of Emmanuel Augustus to a degree. It's like you can't be anything but on your game and at your best to get past him. He's a world class gatekeeper and he'll find you out if you don't take him seriously. So that's what I'd say to Raymond Ford. But Raymond Ford is very, very talented and he's very, very good. So I think if Raymond Ford's on it and at it and over it, I think he wins well. But he needs to be at his best. He needs to be switched on. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, it's Ramirez because well, excuse me, Nova's one of those guys who he wants it too. It's like and you could tell like how just like he how bummed he is when he loses these close fights that he should. I think RG Cortez might have been the last one where he should have gotten the decision on that one, and he just keeps coming up short. But again, he's willing to throw punches, which does put him in trouble. But you can't be too inactive against a guy like that because they'll just sneak rounds on you. I mean, if they're landing 70 punches and they land 15 of them, it might not matter that you threw 40 and landed 15 and had a better accuracy percentage. He just flat out fucking outworked you.
But Nova has sort of leveled off a bit though. Now he's found that level. I think his last 6 or 7, he's won the last 3. He's won 3 out of the last 6 or 7. He has found his level, albeit against good kids. Robs is a good kid. Foster's a good kid. He has found his level, and I expect Ford to have too much. But going back to what we said, reiterating what you pointed out, Raymond needs to be really alert, switched on, proactive, and go and get Nova's respect early on. Otherwise, it could be a real awkward, tight night for Raymond Ford.
Yeah, absolutely could. That fight, that was a good change. Who was Ford supposed to fight originally? Wasn't it with Kakachi?
It was Kakaji.
Yeah. Not quite as interesting as that one, but I feel like Kakachi is going to get found out. Is it just me or is his chin just a little bit fucking up there during exchanges? Like I just kind of feel like he, as much as he has going for him, he's got some deficits that are going to be found out by the right guy. Anyhow. But yeah, Dillian White against Moses Itauma. I'll tell you what, man, after seeing White against Tete, I think he's really in it for one more payday. And again, going back to trying to be decent to fighters, putting it on the line, always a danger. God love him for it. But I think this fight, if Itoma is even half of what people believe he is, White at this stage of his career, regardless of his experience, I just think he's too inactive. He's taken some hard fights when he has been active, taken some shots. I don't know, Rob. I just kind of feel like this. Not even am I feeling the fact that I think Itoma wins this rather easily. I'm thinking probably inside the first 6.
Yeah, I think it's going to look like George Foreman, Joe Fraser, something like that. I think he's just so he's seen his best days, made a lot of money in the sport, been good entertainment value for what he was. Fucking polarizing, yeah, a polarizing effect on the public. Interested in chaptered career. But this is a step too far. Like when you worry about him taking the punishment that he's going, no, fucking hell. If he pulls it off as an upset, a bigger one you won't see, because he's there for the taking and he's there to make Itoma's highlight reel look better. He's a name on the record as he marches on towards what it looks like is going to be heavyweight dominance. We have to see what he's like when he's up against somebody who's going to hit him back too. What is that going to be? This version of Dillian White? Highly doubt it. I have visions of poor Dillian's heads fucking spinning 360 in the first 4 rounds, and I think Itoma's going to make short work of him. Like, just get on a jab, like, won't he? You just get on a jab and fucking line him up for a right hand, like.
It's just the fact that he has good power off of the back foot, though. So, like, I would think that what he offers going forward would probably be too much for White. And if White does, decide that he wants to try to fight going back with his head down or going forward with his head down, I think Itauma probably catches him with a good hook or an uppercut and calls that. And funny enough, you said 4 rounds there, Rob, and I kind of hate that I said inside 6 because this puts me right at where they're fucking thinking. I'm like, God damn it, which way? But the over under on this fight is 4.5 rounds. Getting a little less value on the over. So that's a little bit interesting on that one.
This thing as well. Like, I said it will be a bit. What's obviously the odds on White? Astronomical.
Yeah, he's paying 6-1. So
Yeah,
it's
on the two-way street. Like, that's kind to him, I think, as well. Yeah, look, I could be wrong, but I mean, the ball's on Dillian White, or the desire to earn as much fucking bread as he possibly can.
Try to get a
Maybe he still
harem like
has.
David Hay.
Yeah, like, goes, shoot for the stars. Sometimes you get the moon, that way. Like, but fucking, you worry that, genuinely, jokes aside, you'd worry that could be a potential career ender. Maybe he's viewing it that way already. Like, but listen, that could be all doom and gloom. Dillian could fucking turn the world upside down next week with a fucking comeback win, put himself right in the smack bang in line for Usyk. You know what I mean? Crazy things have happened, like, but I can't see it, man. I think it's going to be a brutal KO loss for poor Dillian.
Yeah, you're having to wager 4.5 just to get a buck back on Itauma by knockout. So it's pretty straightforward on that one. I don't know, Des, are we missing anything here?
I think to touch on Dillian White for a bit, I don't think you asked to answer your question, but I'm going to sort of throw a few ideas out there. Dillian's been a huge achiever in boxing, and when you consider where he started from, I was there. It was in Gillingham on a Friday night on a Frank Maloney card, and I think it was one of them Sky Sports shows. I think Sam Webb was the main event against Prince Aaron or something like that. And it was, I looked at Dillian White and I was sitting next to a very well-known trainer in this country, and he remarks that he's not going anywhere. But when you look at what Dillian's gone on to do, who he's gone on to fight, the money he's earned, the pay-per-views he's had, and maybe he caught Matchroom at the right time and British boxing at the right time. But I think, to pick up on something Rob said, it does give us a value for money, Dillian White. He does sell a fight. He is appealing. There is a place for Dillian White in British boxing. It always has been. A Jamaican kid settles in London, and he's raw, he's tough, he's rugged, and he provides us with decent fights. And I think that's what Dillian's done in his career. But I think this is the wrong fight for Dillian to win. I don't think he can win this fight. And I think I say that because I don't think there's a version of Dillian White I've ever seen that beats this version of Moses Itauma. I think the Povetkin that beat Dillian White first time round isn't better than what Moses is right now.
Yeah,
And I think
he comes into the fight with a lot of tools for a guy with so few pro fights, right? It's
yeah,
pretty incredible.
yeah. And even the Tyson Fury fight. Now we might Sorry, Rob, go on, mate. What was you going to say?
Dillian White has headlined 7 pay-per-view events. 7. He's a kickboxer.
It's like the
So
Anthony
good on him, like.
Mundine of the UK.
Yeah, good on him, like. Good on him. He knew how to sell a
And
fight for sure.
Rob, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Like Dillian White, for a kid who's a kickboxer who had limited amateurs, who turned pro, coming out of a very, very small, unknown amateur gym with an unknown pro trainer. Listen to this run. An unbeaten Dave Allen. Now, we all talk about Dave Allen almost like he's a bit of a cliche, but at the time, he was trained by Peter Fury. He was talking about fighting Anthony Joshua and going on to win his own versions of British and European titles, Dave Allen. And Dillian White took him on at 9-0-1. Ian Lewison, I think you have to come from London and come through the amateurs to have regard and respect for what a good fighter Ian Lewison was. Then he went and fought Derek Chisora, Malcolm Tan, Robert Helenius, Lucas Brown, Joe Parker. He fought Chisora again, Oscar Rivas. Then he fought Povetkin. Then he fought Fury. Then he fought Jermaine Franklin. Now, I'm not saying that's an Alexander Usyk type run, but in context, that's not a bad heavyweight run, is it? That's putting something back into the game, and I think Dillian's done that. But I just don't think, as much as he's given us, and we've had a lot out of Dillian, I don't think any version of Dillian's going to be better than this version of Moses. I don't think the version of Povetkin that beat Dillian is better than this version of Moses. And going back to what I was about to say, Dillian White versus Tyson Fury, that was a very pedestrian, slow, inactive Tyson Fury, and he managed to knock Dillian off his feet and stop him. Now, you could forgive that because Tyson...
It was target practice for Tyson.
It was target practice, and we've not seen it correct, mate. Well said, mate. And we've not seen nothing better of Dillian. And going back to your point...
But you're right on what you say. He went out meekly that night, we would say. You know that way?
Yeah,
He was complaining about the knockout. He
really,
have to push or something, but he went out meekly on the night, like.
And it was everything. It was everything something we've never seen in Dillian White. It was always been a fighter, but you're right, Rob. He was meek that night. It was target practice. He was there to be bowled over. And to go back to Matty's point, the Ebenezer Tete performance. Well, it's going to have to be a huge improvement, a complete 180. And I just don't know if a fighter this age, with this many miles on the clock, with the motor skills Dillian White's got on his best day, I'm not quite sure we're going to see that type of improvement. And if we talk about Moses for a bit, we're talking about a real live one, a kid that's got it. And I just think, I can imagine Moses is going to start fast, he's going to find his range, he's going to land, he's going to find his target. And I just think Dillian would be too big, too easy, too stationary. And I think Moses gets hold of him very early, and he just hits too hard. He's got fast hands. He understands distance really well. I don't think Dillian's feet are that good. I don't think his head movement's going to be good enough. And I can actually see Moses peppering Dillian White, and I think this will be done inside 4 rounds.
Interesting. All right. So, Justin, anything to disagree with there? I got to think like, this version of White, everything we've seen from him, it could be if for some reason he touches Itouma, we'll say like he's a guy who knows how to punch, carries around big mass, doesn't feel good when he hits you. If for some reason White does pull this off, it's a confidence breaker potentially for Itouma moving forward.
I think that's I don't know. If he loses to Dillian White, that's almost a career ender. I mean, almost. Not almost. But I think I agree with everybody. It's going to be less than 4. Dillian White's going to come out swinging his crazy overhand hooks and all the stuff he does. I think White knows he's not going to outbox him, so he's going to come out, open himself up, because that's really the only shot he has is to try to catch. Because we haven't seen Itouma take any shot yet. He hasn't been touched by anybody. So
no,
White,
not really.
I will say this: I think White's going to land. I think just because I don't think Itouma's seen a style like this White's going to be just swinging some crazy shots. I think he's going to land. So this is the perfect kind of fight that you make for Itauma. You get him a name. You get him a guy who's going to test him a little bit, going to give him a little work. But I think when White opens himself up in the first few rounds, Itauma is just going to catch him and lay White out cold. It's not going to be as bad as Povetkin. I don't think he's going to. I mean, that was just the juiced up Povetkin. It's not going to be that bad.
That was such a beautiful move. That's
Yeah.
why we think about it. It wasn't just like some
Yeah.
random clean shot
No,
where he
he
got
set him
under
up.
and over and wow. Yeah.
Itauma's going to get him. I wouldn't be stunned if it was a first round knockout because White's going to try Itauma's going to knock him out. This is not going to be probably fun while it lasts for a couple of rounds because, like I said, White's going to be swinging White never fights any differently. He always tries to just come in and throw huge shots.
Well, you're not going to get a big ring in Saudi Arabia. That's the one thing. If Turkey's involved, it's going to be a small ring.
But you're right. If Itauma loses this fight, I don't know where the hell you go from this. You have to rematch it. That's something I don't think nobody's even questioned what they're going to do if he loses because I don't think Itauma has. I'm not
training Itauma right now. Sorry, real
I'm
quick.
not. Yeah, I'm not. I know people, especially over in the UK, or a lot of people are anointing Itauma as the next best everything, the next Lennox Lewis. I mean, you can hear people talk; they think he's going to be the next everything for British boxing.
Yeah, it's a high bar.
I'm not there yet. He had beaten Dillian White doesn't. I mean,
no.
Anything, but the only bad thing for Itauma is that it's going to be hard for him to prove a lot because there's just not a lot of great heavyweights out there. There's just really not a lot of. I think if he beats Dillian White, I think he should fight Torres next. Throw him in versus Torres.
Torres needs a step up fight.
Yeah. Throw him in versus. I think, but yeah, Dillian White. This is a good time now to get him, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's not much. You're just trying to build up at this point in time while a few other people are fighting Usyk, and eventually, you're probably going to want to fight, as you'd call, Usyk's former opponents as leftovers, so to speak, and try to do some compare and contrast and maybe set that up when the man is finally clearly on the slide and might only have one or two left. But it's just all picking them the right way, but a lot of talent in this guy, but we need to see him get touched to see if he can handle it. Cause again, that's the story in heavyweight boxing. It's all these guys, have, they're big guys with mass and they hit you, bad things can happen. So we need to see how he holds up to that. Cause that is obviously a huge part of the equation here. So anyone have any other thoughts on this card before we call it a day? Right on. So it's been a good one. We've had some good talks. It was fantastic having Tony Yoka on here. It's been a while since we've done an interview, and I really enjoyed that. Good dude, and we do wish him the best moving forward as he plans out the next steps of his career. There's some potential big names in his future, but it was good talking to him. Des, was there something you wanted to say there?
Did we cover Nick the main event?
A little bit. Justin, did you want to talk about your thoughts on Ball against Goodman?
Oh, I must have missed it because I've been flipping in and out. Sorry,
I've got nothing to add. I think you kind of broke down that fight, kind of how Goodman was going to fight. I got nothing to add.
Yeah, go for it.
I think Frank Warren and the people at maybe Red Triangle, the gym Nick Ball trains at, I think they looked at the level of opposition Nick Ball was at, and they thought we're going to have to slow him down a little bit. And I think they've pulled the level of opposition back that Nick Ball's fighting. And there's so many really talented guys at featherweight. And they're now bringing in non-punchers from super bantamweight up. And I think Sam Goodman, he'll offer something, but I just don't think he's big enough, punches hard enough to deal with Nick Ball's style.
I just think it's the wrong style because he's going to be willing to trade with Ball, and he's just, again, he's just not the puncher he needs to be in that scenario.
And Bally will be allowed to maraud Sam, and I think that's what's going to get it. But they definitely tweaked the level of his opposition because there was a time when Nick Ball was fighting killers, and he ain't fighting killers no more. So I expect Nick Ball to win. I think he'd be quite a marauding style because I don't think Sam's got the pop to get Nick's respect and keep him off. And I think it'll allow Nick to look really good.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if they have odds on it now. Like, if there was a bet that I was going to make on this fight, it would probably be the fight to. Wow, you're getting good odds actually on the fight to not go the distance, and the reason I'm thinking that, and is not just. It's not necessarily that I think Nick Ball is going to overpower Sam Goodman and will him to the canvas. You have to remember, why has Sam Goodman had to pull out of these fights recently, especially against Inoue? It's because he's been getting cut in sparring. Like the odds of getting a cut against Nick Ball by an accidental headbutt or one of those overhand shots that he throws are tremendously high if you got scar tissue. So I'd be thinking this one to not go the distance all the way.
And then something else slightly off this one, Matty, is Boxing Focus in the chat said that Bacoli would be a good test for Itoma and not White. I think Bacoli's a much bigger threat than White.
He's a
But
couple fights away, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But I just wonder why we're not taking Moses down through the domestic card, because there's Jamie TKV, Solly Dakers, Dave Allen, Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley. There's 5 domestic level heavyweights based in this country, and we're kind of rerouting Moses around them. And I wonder if you kind of helicopter Moses into a Joe Parker fight or a Hergovich fight or someone a bit further down the line than Hergovich, someone like maybe a Zhang or maybe someone like that. I think
Jared
maybe it might
Anderson.
be. Well, I just think we've got so many. We've got quite a capable, competent group of heavyweights in this country at the moment, from your Dave Allens all the way up to your Fabio Wardleys. I'm wondering why they're not doing that with Moses.
Because, well, there's just so much money in these Saudi cards, and they just kind of choose where they want to have them.
But I think Moses versus Fabio is a huge fight. Moses versus Adelaide's a huge fight. Moses versus Fraser Clark on the back of, say, 2 good wins, I think would be a good fight. And I think you learn an awful lot about Moses when it goes through the card like that. British boxing is built on guys beating their competitors, working their way through, winning British titles, Commonwealth titles, European titles. I'm not saying it's got to be that way. We've seen other guys doing it a different way. But then if they did it a different way, like in terms of way Frank Bruno was rerouted around, it's because Gary Mason and James Ibola were there, and they thought they could catch him out. When Amir Khan went the long way, the other way around, it was because Dave Stewart and John Faxton and Murray was around at that time, and I thought we don't want him to get caught out, and we don't want to spoil what we could have. I just wonder why they're doing that with Moses, because there's a lot of good heavyweights that I think you'd fancy Moses against, and I think you'd find out an awful lot about Moses if he fought them kids, but they're not doing that for a reason. Matt, are you there?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I was on mute. I think the problem is sometimes they think these guys, they can individually route them away from each other into lucrative fights rather than into each other, and only one of them gets into a lucrative fight, and it's just the stupid business of it all.
I know one thing. I want to see Itauma moved up after this. Like, I do. Like, I know there's no hurry with him or whatever, but like, there's fuck all in the heavyweight division. Let's get him moved along. Like, come on, the fuck.
What is this? His 12th fight? Something like that? Less than that?
But these days, 14 fights is a fucking title shot. 15 fights is a title shot, isn't it? Like,
Can be. Yeah, depending on your pedigree, right? And he does have one. So,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit in the camp now. I've got a foot in both camps here because I think Moses is a real talent, but I'm also a little bit with Justin here that we haven't seen loads of him, and the reason I'm gonna reference Spencer Oliver on Talk Sport and Simon Jordan last week. They made the comparison. I found it shocking that this version of Moses is similar to Mike Tyson when he fought Trevor Berbick. And I've got to tell you, because I was around when Tyson fought Trevor Berbick, as was Rob.
Yep.
Moses is a million miles off of where Mike Tyson was when he fought Trevor Berbick. They're not on the same planet. So maybe people are getting carried away with Moses.
I'm there for the journey. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to see someone fucking fast track through. Come on, knock down everybody on the way up, and we'll see when you get there. Like, there's nothing there in the heavyweight division. Who the fuck is he gonna? You know what I mean? He has to put a stamp down. Like, I think he doesn't talk much either. Like, he's, you know what I mean? It's
what
like,
would you rather, Rob? What would you rather? Would you rather Moses fight Joe Parker? That's a good fight. Would you like to see? Let me put it another way. Would you like to see Moses fight Fabio Wardley?
no,
Would that interest you?
not really. Maybe, yeah, maybe. If he could go and make short work of Fabio Wadi and start saying, "All right, this is something," like if he blew through him, like.
What I don't want to see though, Rob, I don't want to see him put Moses in 2 fights time with Alexander Usyk. I don't want that. I'd rather see Moses fight domestic guys
Zilly
that I
Zhang.
really enjoy. Yeah, I'll take the Zilly Zhang fight. Yeah.
Zilly Zhang, someone like that, somebody with a name who's been there, done it, and he goes and blows him out. Like, we see where he is.
Yeah.
Because there's
So
what's the point waiting?
I'll take that then. I'll take that. But what I don't want to see is Moses get put in there with a Joe Parker, a Caballero, or an Usyk and get beat. Because I think if you just cook this right, you could have something in 18 months. But it is about timing and getting the matchmaking right. I agree with what you're saying.
It's about
But
to forget about the
I want to
fucking.
match it right though.
Let him come again. Let him come again. If he'll have another shot because he'll have a profile. There's plenty of bread there in heavyweights now. Like, it's going to open up, so he's going to be there bouncing the shake up anyway. Like, if he gets beat, like, get a rematch. Go beat him in the fucking rematch. Like, see how good he is.
You know, and I do think the shine of undefeated records is starting to go away, and people are starting to be.
Yeah, we have Zuffa boxing.
People lose.
Zuffa boxing are going to do the UFC model where the O doesn't matter. Zuffa boxing. It's all about that Zuffa boxing, and they're advertising. Great for the sport.
I hesitate to ask. Anyhow. But yeah, there's more action this week than there has been. I think that Pro Box card is good. There's a couple of bouts on this one that are all right. As long as this isn't pay-per-view, I couldn't feasibly pay for this card. I don't know who would, but to all 500 of you that would, we salute you over here at Boxing Asylum. Thanks for carrying the torch. But yeah, it's been a really good time. Again, the Tony Yoka interview was fantastic. Really enjoyed that one. We had some great discussions today. But again, this podcast is in memory of Shigetoshi, Kotari, and Hiromasa Urakawa, who lost their lives due to injuries sustained in the ring, reminding us of exactly how dangerous this sport we love really is. So again, thanks to Tony Yoka for coming on. I appreciate Rob Kelly as well, Des and Justin. We will see you folks again next week. I won't be here, but I do believe I have found a wonderful person to take the reins. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks.
We'll never forget.
Ali, let's get that.
Go to and move!
We want to be honest, yeah.
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking Sri Lanka that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum. You're a fucking asshole.
Grumpo fucking skin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. 7 year ain't.
I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.